This WA Racing update is brought to you by Tab Touch. Better your bet with Tab Touch.
A couple of local meetings to take a look at. Northam Chasing, CD the betting code, 11 races on the program, 12:39 start time, and then CD the betting code for Pinjarra, a later start, 9 races on the program, 1:53 start time Pinjarra this afternoon. I presume with a little bit more East Coast racing with a public holiday over there, maybe Pinjarra has been pushed back, but Matt Young will give us a preview of those 9 races on the Sports Daily from about 8:45. Shayne Williams with his specials from Northam, the CD betting code from 6:30.
Make Tab Radio your station of choice each weekday morning from 5:30 with the Sports Daily.
All right, no news bulletin just at the moment here on the Sports Daily, but that means we've got a lot more time to get into your text messages. Benny from Bunbury said he's gone down with the man flu all weekend.
Oh.
He was pretty happy with the way things went punting-wise, but he said, Diggers, do yourself a favour. Teddy was brilliant.
Okay, I'll take your word. All right, Benny. No, I'll take your word for it. TC, you've given Benny a push. Teddy a push. Benny's given Teddy a push, so I'll have a look. I'll pay attention. I was watching
Teddy
yeah, and you have. So I was watching the races from Northam yesterday. Gee whiz, rough results there.
Yeah,
there was a couple of rough results. So I'll have a look at the old swimmer a little bit later.
The old Thorpe.
Yes.
Go get him, Thorpe. Yeah, wonderfully made at Northam. Looking forward to tuning in and seeing hopefully a horse that might be able to put up her hand going towards the pinnacles, but unfortunately things didn't work out.
No, it did not. But I still think she's a good filly, but it didn't go according to plan there yesterday for Wonderfully Made. And, you know, there was initial thought of, maybe he needed to be closer to the fence early in that meeting. But then as the meeting went on, horses were making ground where she was, and she did not. She ran 7th, beaten 5.5. She went around at $1.70. I think Chris Parnham gave punters a really good guide by riding 54 on a Sunday. But to be brutally honest, on face value, she did cover a little bit of ground, but she was a little bit underwhelming.
Yep, absolutely. Who wasn't underwhelming was Sfura overnight, another Group 1.
3 European Group 1s now. Like, if you travel a horse internationally and you win one Group 1, as a trainer, you've done a super job. Henry's done it back-to-back years with this mare, this daughter of Flying Hardie. Last year we saw what she did, and now this time in she's done it twice, winning overnight at Longchamp. So that's a mighty accomplishment. So she's now a 3-time Group 1 winner, that mare. Like, she's going to be worth a lot of money when she finds her way into a broodmare sale, be it here or be it overseas, or whether there's a deal done privately. But Henry, hats off to him.
Yeah.
He has every right to be immensely proud of his accomplishment.
Yeah, absolutely. And hats off to the owners too for giving him the freedom to be able to do it as well. Paul from Palmyra on the text line. Morning, boys. Talking through my wallet, but Robbie Dolan's ride in the Metrop was a 15 out of 10. If you haven't watched it closely, go and watch it again. The gaps he found were out of this world. Shout out to Nick Ashman too. He said a 2-bet play in that race with the favourite, who, gee whiz, could not have been much better. Was wide and exposed, 4 wide, no cover from a very long way out, Soul of Spain.
Yep.
Who was very good. And then, he's dabbed the Quinella. He said back Royal Supremacy and Soul of Spain. That Newcastle Cup form was the right form and spot on.
Exactly. And I hope our listeners were paying close attention when we spoke to Michael Friedman, because he was very happy with his filly, Apocalyptic, going into the Flight Stakes, and she duly saluted beating Within the Law quite comfortably.
How about that look over the shoulder from
Tom? It was good, wasn't it? But he was also quite enthused about Incognito, the son of Stay Inside, who we know he trained to win a golden slipper. $1 Million Colt. He said there's some similarities between this colt and his dad, and he went there and took out the Breeders' Plate at Group 3 level, first 2-year-old race of the New South Wales season, and he did a really good job beating Omya Huckleberry, a Home Affairs colt trained by Gay and Adrian. So, no, well done to Michael Friedman. A really big day there on a big afternoon at Randwick.
Mick from Ellenbrook. Good morning, boys. Peter Volandi's knocked it out of the park this time once again with the Teddy Swims Night Show Entertainment We got to go to a twilight entertainment and we got to do better. I think he's speaking about the AFL. Snoop Dogg, no good. Teddy, fantastic. Go the Broncos.
Go the Broncos. It's a great showpiece, isn't it, the NRL Grand Final? You know, the AFL's done. Not that they would care. Those in New South Wales or New South Wales Rugby League, the ARL, they don't care. But it's just this standalone fixture. Well, and it's a fixture. The Grand Final is an actual fixture. And when you've got two teams from outside New South Wales, you know, in the Grand Final, but under lights, performance, massive crowd in excess of 80 there at Acors Stadium. They'd be
a Broncos home green.
Yeah, it was terrific, and it always is. It's a great spectacle, the NRL showpiece.
Yeah, absolutely. No name on this one, but does anyone know if Spacewalk is at Puff and Alana's yet? He is meant to be aimed at the Golden Saddle last I heard. Well, I know he hadn't seen the horse about a month before the Golden Saddle, so I don't think that was ever on the plate. But I'm not sure if the horse is there just yet.
No, I don't know. We can message Grant and find out, but he's certainly making his way here, and hopefully, I think he was being ticked over, was he not? Whilst he was making his way here, so it's not as if Grant and Alana are getting their hands on an unfit horse or a horse who's been left in the paddock for 5 or 6 months. I think he'll come over here in decent enough condition, and now he'll just get used to the heavy sand and the training regime of Grant and Alana, and I think you'll see a very competitive horse when they do step him out.
Yeah, absolutely. Only has to bring that form across from the East Coast. Yep. It'll be awfully competitive over here, so we get to build up to Ascot, one of the more exciting weeks of the year.
Great.
Diggers. Opening day there at Ascot on Saturday. You just get to walk into Ascot and it's a different feel.
And we get to see some seriously good horse flesh trial. We touched on it on Friday, TC, but the trials today down there at Lark Hill, it is an outstanding set of heats, and I think a lot of eyeballs are going to be focused on the Quokka champ, that being Joker's Grin. This is going to be the first of 2 trials before he embarks on a Winterbottom campaign.
All right, can't wait to discuss that tomorrow morning, just before we hit the sting for the Around the Nation opener, Diggers. Some NFL scores to catch us up. I know you didn't really want to do it because the Eagles went down.
Yeah, Eagles got beaten by the Broncos.
Well, they'll only lose 2 or 3 all year, so that's all right.
I didn't. That wasn't part of the bingo card though, losing to the Broncos. But games overnight or this morning, the Broncos beat the Eagles 21-17. The Panthers beat the Dolphins 27-24. The Cowboys, too strong for the Jets, 37-22. The New Orleans Saints beat the Giants 26-14. Games ongoing at the moment. There's a beauty going on between Tampa Bay and Seattle. It is currently 21-all, but the Buccaneers first and goal on the Seattle goal line. Washington lead the Chargers 17-10 midway through the third. The Cardinals are well up on the Titans, and the Lions, understandably, are doing a number on the Bengals.
All right. What about them Sunday night game?
Yeah.
Patriots.
The
Bills.
Patriots-Bills. So this is an AFC East encounter in Orchard Park in New York. I'm keen here, the Bills at the line.
7.5?
Yeah, I'm really keen. The Patriots don't have a running game, to be fair. So, and we know the Bills score at will. So the Bills can allow some points on defence, that we do know. But I think if the Bills are as efficient as they are on offence, they'll find a way to put some points on the Patriots and cover that line for mine.
Bills minus 7.5 at $1.89 with Tab Touch. The over-under for the game that kicks off at 8:20, 49.5 in the NFL.
As the working week begins, it is time to reflect on what made the racing and sporting landscape over the weekend. Reflecting on the highs and lows of this racing and sporting nation.
Rod Marsh is saying no, mate. And I'm sure he's going to bow an underarm delivery. This is possibly a little bit disappointing. Can the Swans do it? Simon! Who would have thought the sequel would be just as good as the original? But a champion becomes a legend. McCartney never has won it.
We go around the nation.
Here's Aloisi for a place in the World Cup. For us. He scored! Australia have got it!
This one, candidly, might go down as one of the great final round collapses in major tournament history.
Richard Haynes, Tom Rehn and Tony Jones to join us, but we'll kick it off with Nick Markham to recap the NRL's showpiece event last night with the Brisbane Broncos becoming the 2025 NRL Premiers. Nick, a very good morning to you.
Morning, boys.
Good morning, Nick. Snoop Dogg or Teddy Swims?
Oh, Snoop every day of the week. Every day of the week.
Text line's lit up.
They love the swimmer. They love the swimmer.
I didn't mind. Look, Teddy's got his audience, I'm sure, and I thought he did quite a good job. But yeah, for me, he's not in the stratosphere, same stratosphere as the Snoop Dogg. But
it was a bit rude that he stole your jacket too, Nick, I thought.
Do you rock into Channel 7 looking like that each Monday?
Yes, yeah, and I also carry one of those scepters that Snoop Dogg took out to the middle of the MCG. So, yeah.
Dear, oh dear. Right, let's straighten up. The game itself, what did we witness last night out there in Western Sydney?
Oh, look, it was one of the great, like what we saw from Reece Walsh for the Broncos stacks up favourably with any of the great grand final individual performances, Nathan Cleary 2 years ago, and anything else that we've seen. He was quite magnificent for the Broncos, and what a game it was. So many momentum swings, and the way the Broncos dragged their way back into that game, took the lead in the second half, and then gutsily clung on while they lost Adam Reynolds to injury, Ben Hunt to concussion. That's their two main playmakers. And look, they had props, Xavier Willison defending out in the centres. It was a real gutsy performance the way they held on, and right to the death when Eli Katoa and Ryan Pappenhausen threatened to get the Storm back, and Reece came up with a big play on Ryan Pappenhausen. It was a fantastic performance in attack and defence from Reece Walsh. It was immense, and what Michael Maguire was able to unlock with him in the back half of the season propelled the Broncos to the premiership. There's no two ways about that.
Yeah, remarkable. Did you think at halftime it was the Storms? Could you see Brisbane coming back?
No, I didn't. And if Tui Kamikamica doesn't drop the ball over the line early in the second half, I think the Storm probably go on and win it. But as we witnessed, that was a major turning point. The Broncos go back down the end, back down the other end, bang on a few quick tries, take the lead, and held on. So, yeah, the Storm absolutely had their chances. They were woeful in that second half. Let's make no mistake there. I think they were 7 from 14 or 7 from 12 in terms of completions at one point there, which is so unacceptable for any team, let alone a team of the Storm's calibre. So, look, they absolutely threw it away with Kamikamica's blown try and their own poor discipline and poor ball handling in the second half.
The resilience of the Broncos, no Reynolds, Ben Hunt late, trailing by 10 at half-time. This goes down in the annals as one of the really, really significant grand final triumphs, Nick, does it not?
Absolutely it does. And look, given the Broncos sacked Kevin Walters, made a really, really tough decision and got a guy in like Michael Maguire, who's had his critics about potentially training players too hard. They brought him in to instill a real hard edge, and we saw that hard edge and that fitness in the whole final series. They came back to win three of their finals during the series, and they showed that resilience, that hard edge, that fitness, that all the things Michael Maguire is renowned for. And on the biggest stage of all, the resilience they showed, the adversity they overcome there at the end with no Reynolds, no Hunt, and what a great move it was for Michael Maguire to have Ezra Mam on the bench there as well to cover any holes like that. It really ensured the Broncos didn't lose too much, which was another good decision on Madge's part. So, yeah, look, he did everything right, Michael Maguire. They were brilliant. They were tough, and they also showed so much guts towards the end. It was one of the great victories for sure. And adding to that, the magnitude of the Broncos as a club, no doubt the biggest club in the competition, had been waiting for a premiership for the best part of 20 years, and to deliver it in that fashion with a performance like we saw and the brilliance of Reece Walsh and the guts of the team overall, it was just magnificent.
Did you like the way the game was refereed?
Look, I didn't. I don't think the referee had a big bearing on the impact of the result. I put it that way. Maybe there was a few too many. Look, there was a few questionable penalties early on and six agains. It's always a bit of a lottery with the six agains, and it's hard to know exactly what the infringement is that they're penalising there, so it's hard to know with the six agains. But look, I don't think the referee had a major impact on the result of the game, and that's sort of what you want in the big games.
Okay, so the season itself, Nick, if we look back on it, clearly the Broncos are a tick. We admire what the Melbourne Storm continue to do year upon year. Other, I suppose, pass marks for clubs and or crosses against clubs which didn't live up to expectations?
Well, I think a big plus is the Penrith Panthers, given where they were at the start of the year or midway through the year, last on the ladder. I think there was a lot of signs pointing to the fact that they were finished as a title contender, but the way they were able to put it together in the back end of the season, and we go back a week and they were within minutes of beating the Broncos, the eventual premiers. So look, I think they showed enough to show that they'll absolutely be in the fight for premierships for at least next season and potentially beyond, with the way that they've been able to rebuild with young players like Blaze Talangi integrating into that side. So look, I think the Panthers, despite their woeful start, get a big tick and they'll be happy with where they are going forward. I think a big question is the Bulldogs. They were so good, then they hit a wall in the back end of the season, and what promised so much ended with a straight set exit from the finals. They've got a bit to prove in terms of the way they integrate Lachie Galvin into that squad, whether it is the right decision that what they've done to move Toby Sexton on and bring Lachie Galvin in, who's a great young talent who's likely only going to improve. What we see from the Dogs is a big question mark next year. They'll also debut one of the real big talents in the competition, a kid by the name of Mitchell Woods. So that's one to look out for Doggies fans. So I think they're still definitely on the upward trajectory, but they certainly have a lot to prove with what will be a very young halves combination going forward. I think a team that'll start with the season with massive question marks on it, and it could go south very quickly, is Manly. We saw Anthony Seibold under massive pressure at the back end of last season. Manly got through. Daly Cherry-Evans leaves. Jamal Fogarty comes in from Canberra, but the talk that guys like Tom Trbojevic and Jake Trbojevic aren't happy at Manly just won't go away. And if they happen to start next season poorly, it could be we could see some movement at Manly. So, look, that's just off the top of my head. I think a team like the Sharks might be well placed to contend again. But, yeah, look, I think one of the most open seasons in a long time. So, look, hopefully we can see another one like that going forward, and a few teams can jump up out of the ground and work their way into premiership contention. Another one is the Raiders, of course. Look, they went out in straight sets, but they're a good young core there, and they'll only get better year on year, you would think.
We need to flick the switch nice and quickly because it's now cricket season, Nick, and we're looking to try and find a partner somewhere for Usman Khawaja to open the batting at the Ashes. But unfortunately, there yesterday at the Wacker, and albeit in very tough conditions, Sam Constas wasn't able to make a score. No, very, very disappointing, and that frailty to the in-swinging ball is a big concern for Sam Constas. And look, I think he's in big danger of not. Look, hopefully he makes runs, but look, I think he needs a couple of big scores to be definite in there. You see guys like Jake Weatherald and the like are putting their hand up. So, yeah, look, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out in the early part of the Shield season. I think they've got some big decisions to make, especially in the wake of how Sam Constas performed yesterday. And look, he'll be a big watch going forward. Certainly,
well, he'll get an opportunity, you would think, all things being equal, to have a bat today on what is going to be, hopefully, a bit more batter-friendly, that deck there at the Wacker. Nick, great to chat again. Great summation of what was a terrific NRL Grand Final. We'll do it all again in a week.
Cheers, boys. See you later.
There's Nick Markham from Channel 7 there in Sydney. We'll keep it rolling in New South Wales. We'll turn our attention to the racing, and Richard Haynes joins us now on the Sports Daily. Richard, very good morning to you.
Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, listeners. And, yeah, we had probably, one of the great days of racing in Sydney on the calendar. I know we had the championships, and I know Everest Day is less than 2 weeks away, but I can easily say Epsom Day is my favourite day of the year. 2-year-olds out, milers, 3-year-olds, stayers, everything in between. And I think all those performances on the day didn't let anyone down.
There's a bit of girl power on display at Randwick on the weekend, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, no, it was. We saw a couple of fillies and mares that they're just outstanding. We can probably start. Let's start with the younger version.
Yep.
And that is Apocalyptic. I think. Okay, you're $1.65 favourite. You're meant to be taking care of business, but again, Michael Freeman. That he was a little concerned with a potentially sticky draw. Tommy Berry just took that out of the equation by settling up on the speed. Just didn't want any kind of bad luck. I don't think was not the perfect place for her to be in the run. I think they probably would have preferred maybe a pair back, but she's just that good. And when 3-year-olds are just a bit better than their own age and sex at this time of year, they go and do these things. I think some of those other girls, we thought, they'll get up to the mile and they'll really challenge Queen of Clubs. I thought was going to be one of those, and also Artistic Venture, and within the law, a stack of people were tipping her on the day. But what you see is what you get with Apocalyptic. She's an extreme choice filly. She is just a ripper, and she opened up and deservedly won the Derby Flight Stakes. She's now a Group 1 winner. She's only had a handful of starts. The sky's the limit with her. Within the law was fantastic for second. She's a top filly in her own right, but she's just bumped into an outstanding one on the day. And Karinska ran out of her skin, and she picks up a Group 1 placing. Enviable also, fourth in a Group 1 was good as well. But they're just all bumped into a filly who's just a star. My racehorse filly, so a lot of owners in her enjoying a Group 1 win. So to Ben Willis and the My Racehorse crew, well done. Frightened to think what she might do, whether they... Michael's can be conservative. He might just pull the pin, or he might look at another race in the spring. But she's done a mighty job this time in.
Yeah, it sounds like if she does race on, it might be there in Melbourne in the 1,000 Guineas, or possibly the Empire Roses, a 3-year-old filly. But speaking of stars, her dad goes all right.
As an extreme choice.
Yeah.
Oh, he gets your Melbourne Cup winners. He gets you these kinds of horses.
Yeah.
It's just a shame he's had his fertility problems and probably doesn't have large books of horses coming through. But yeah, he's some stallion, isn't he? He can just get a top class horse, that's for sure.
Okay, Richard, if I was to give you 3 horses that you could acquire and race in Australia, would Autumn Glow feature in those 3?
I think she would. She's something else. She's unbeaten. I know they paid the big money for her and everything else, but that was a really gritty victory in the week, and a bit like Apocalyptic. From the draw, the wide draw, Kieran sort of had to take any bad luck out of it, and he did by getting across, and he had to work a little bit to get there. They didn't hand it up to him to be where he was, but he was just able to give her an easy enough time in the run, settling just off Fully Lit. And look, at the top of the straight, I think there were probably a few little anxious moments, like she had challenges coming all around her, and you're wondering, okay, what are you really made of here? You've got the 54 and a half. You come a long way in a short space of time, but she's just got such a big motor and a big stride, and delighted for Kieran. Plenty of pressure on Kieran to just to get this mare home. She's so popular and she's so good, and she knuckled down for an enormous win. Fully Lit was fantastic for second. Pericles great for third. Swift Falcon flashed up again. But just staying with the winner, I spoke to, just after the race, I caught up with Kieran's wife, Kathy, and was there with the kids, and I was said, congratulations, well done, how good's that? And she said, I've never seen him, Kieran, that is just so on edge race week. Never seen him so nervous and just wanting to get to the races and go and do this. So it means a lot to Kieran. It means a lot to the family. It means a lot to everyone. It's not so much the unbeaten streak. I think it's the expectation of her. She's that good, and I think Kieran did a great job on her, and he can relax now. But he was certainly on edge during the week. The second horse, Fully Lit. I know a couple of the owners of this horse, and I bumped into them straight after the race. They thought they'd won the race. They were carrying on like they'd won the race. I mean, I spoke to one of the owners on Tuesday. He goes, guess what, Richard? I said, what? He goes, we've accepted for the Epsom. I said, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, field's kind of dropped away. We've accepted. I said, well, you can't pick up a cheque at home in the box, as they say. He goes, I know. We're just going to go and enjoy it for what it is and see what happens.
Well, he's a cheap horse, wasn't he, Richard, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, Red Fox Racing, one of our good syndicators in Australia, 50 kilos, wasn't a dear horse. He's gone and run second in the Epsom, but they were beside themselves. Pericles a ripper, runs well again. Swift Falcon Pier, all good runs. Che Wolf kind of grinding home that bit now. Not sure where we're at with him, but they've all just bumped into a great mare. She's fantastic. Well done to Arrowfield stud, John Mastara. A name that needs no introduction. An amazing breeder, real visionary when it comes to breeding and racing horses and the whole industry. But she's just something else.
Yeah, absolutely. Some years, Rich, we sort of look back at the Metropolitan and you think the form may be questionable. What do we make of this year's edition? Because Royal Supremacy and also Soul of Spain, the first two across the line, I thought were really, really good.
Yeah, they were. I just watched this race back a couple of times this morning just in preparation for this little segment, and it was a fantastic ride from Robbie Dolan. Soul of Spain probably was flushed out to go a little early, and Robbie thought, right, I'm getting right on the back of you, and followed Soul of Spain all the way through. Where does the form sit? Hard to say, but Robbie's great on these staying types. Last year's Melbourne Cup winning rider, and he's got another ride in the big race as well. I thought it was a beautiful ride to follow Soul of Spain through. I think that's Newcastle Cup form. So who knows sometimes where the good staying form comes from. These two are 1 and 2 in the Newcastle Cup, just a different order. So they've run great races. Jude Chiquibo has come a long way in a short space of time. He was good as well off the lightweight. More Felons was massive, 55 kilos, last turning for home. His run was enormous. And I watched the race with Adrian Bott. And when they hit the line, I sort of looked at him and he looked at me, and I couldn't sort of really want to say anything because I wasn't sure what he was thinking. And he said, well, at least we won't get a penalty for the Caulfield Cup on that. Speaking of Vauban,
yes.
He was just trucking up behind them. So, yeah, I think they're all, those first 5 home are all very good, solid stayers. Are they the best? Are they right at the top bracket? Don't know, but I think they're all going very, very well. And whether they appear in Caulfield and Melbourne Cups, they will. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I don't mind the form from this year's Metrop. I think those first, 4 or 5 home, they're pretty good stayers. They've got to keep on improving and go the right way. But I didn't mind the running of this year's Metrop, and thoroughly deserved by Royal Supremacy. Australian bloodstock. They bring a lot of people into racing. They source out these horses from other parts of the world. And they've got another good stay here in Royal Supremacy.
Now, it's fair to say this Everest picture, it's a moving feast at the moment. If Kaying Rising is the number 1 seed, and undeniably he is, who's the number 2 seed?
Great question. I'm going to, without upsetting Michael Wayne and John Hawkes, I'm going to say Jimmy Starr.
Okay.
I thought he was great on the weekend. I thought, first 2 home, Briassa and Jimmy Starr were excellent. So, and just focusing on Jimmy Starr, I like the way Michael Hawkes is talking. They're not so much fighting words, but he's like, this is never a 2-horse race. They've travelled horses to Hong Kong, and Chautauqua was able to win up there, and this horse is coming in, and they can see that it's not that easy to do. So I just like the way Michael's talking with a bit of, not that he's putting any spice into the build-up at all, but I don't think it hurts to talk that way. They've got a good horse in Briassa. He's a really good sprinter, and he's going to make his presence felt in less than a couple of weeks' time. I just think there's a bit of a sense of timing around Jimmy Starr. You look at the market, Jimmy Starr, a $15 chance. I reckon if you want to take on one to beat the big horse from Hong Kong, who's now $1.50. Wow. He's shortening up by just trotting around Canterbury.
Mm.
I mean, it's crazy. I like Jimmy Starr. Briassa's $11 chance. Yeah. Jolly Star, good. I just thought Jimmy Starr's got a sense of timing. He's building up to something. we'll see a big trial tomorrow morning, guys. As we know, we'll see Kaying Rising going around with the good horses, Angel Capital. I think Jolly Star's there to trial amongst others as well. So we'll see how he handles the feeder of the horse. It'll be a little bit of a race day experience for Kaying Rising, but I'm sure he'll be looking forward to getting out of Canterbury for a bit of a look around, some different surroundings. But yeah, the picture on the weekend, Brias is almost screwed down for the grand final. So is Jimmy Star, though. Fantastic. Private Harry pulled up lame, so his Everest campaign, you think, is done and dusted on that. War Machine goes the way with Coolmore, which is gives them a chance. I mean, he was good on the weekend. War Machine, $21 chance at the moment for this big race. Magic Time, English pickup Magic Time at $34, good in the Manikato. So the field taking shape that bit more now.
Yeah, only 12 days away from the Everest. It comes up very, very quickly. Looking forward to tomorrow morning and seeing Kaying Rising at the trials. Thank you very much, Rich. We'll do it all again next week. No
worries. I think Joe Pry's got a good middle distance horse in Attica.
Yeah.
And thought that very happy to see James Harron and his crew with Incognito win. They paid $1 million for him and he won a Breeders' Plate on debut. That's the business model for James and his people. They want to buy these good colts. They pay a bit of money for them. So good to see them off the mark with a stay inside, beating a home affairs. So the new boys off to a good start too there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Rich.
Anytime, guys. Have a good week.
There's Richard Haynes from Sydney recapping everything that happened in racing from New South Wales on Saturday. Back with Shayne Williams.
On the Sports Daily, the Shayne train's coming into the station. Here's Shayne Williams with his winners for tonight's WA Greyhound racing.
Good morning to you, Shayne.
Yes, good morning, boys.
What's going on with
stand
that
somewhere
line?
else. Stand somewhere else. That line's horrible.
That better?
Just. Where are you?
Yeah, I'm still in Sydney.
Oh.
All right, we might call you back in 3 minutes if you get down the street.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Yep. I'm not sure if you like that or not. So anyway,
now, a shout out. Can I give a shout out to Jason Brown?
About this, yeah.
To Jason Brown, the multiple Group 1 winning jockey, loves Daryl Braithwaite and the horses, and he'll be rapt that it's news. The Moonee Valley Racing Club has tweeted this morning that Daryl Braithwaite is going to perform his iconic anthem, The Horses, on Cox Plate Day.
Great decision for me.
So Jason Brown, I can see him having a conniption right now. He's not a fan of that song. He thinks that song's had its day.
Not sure it gets played enough.
No, now you're just really sticking the needle in Jason.
No, Cox Plate Day's the one day. It's like Mike Brady at the AFL Grand Final.
Really
you get a free pass. You get a free pass.
You get 2.5 minutes. Do your best, boys.
What was a good, I don't know if it was a post or a meme or whatever, and Snoop Dogg was making a big deal. Oh, it's the first time I've played in front of 100,000 people. Mike Brady says, give me a spell.
Do it every year. Yeah. Been doing it since 1974. Oh dear. But yeah, the horses will be performed by Daryl Braithwaite at Cox Plate Day, and it'll be a jam-packed valley, and they'll go nuts. It's the Melbourne version of Sweet Caroline, isn't it? It's the equivalent. The equivalent, isn't it?
Is that the last meeting at Moonee Valley? The Moonee Valley as we know it at the moment?
As in its current format, I believe it will be, yes. Yeah. After Cox Plate Day, they do the alterations, surgically enhance it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be a big day. It's going to be a big day, and it's going to be a big race. It always is, but you got Sir Delius and Via Sistina going head-to-head. Bring it on.
Hopefully treasure the moment.
Yeah.
Goes really well on Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. No, I cannot wait.
Aliana, I'm not too sure which way they go there.
She just needs ground, doesn't she?
You'd think you'd go to a Cox Plate.
Caulfield Cup. Yeah.
Also running to a half jet there.
Yeah, well, that's it. The head-to-head battle there between Aliana and the Tony and Calvin McAvoy horse. Game on. Great racing.
Absolutely. We'll try again. Shayne, you with us?
Morning, boys. How are we?
There you
That's
go,
better.
son.
Get out of the lift.
That's better.
You get out of the lift. You don't want to get in the lift. They get stuck.
Yeah, well, you're out from under the doona. It's good to see. What did you make of last night?
Oh, it was a great game of footy. Brisbane were really good. They've become the second half team, haven't they? They've really come back in that second half. But probably got to give credit to Madge Maguire. They all wanted his head around round 10, 11. They wanted to sack him and that, so he's come back to win the comp from. So good on him.
Did you think, well, given what happened the previous Sunday and Brisbane were able to, rise from the canvas in the manner that they did against Penrith, but last night trailing 22-12, they were unable to stop the Storm offensively, the juggernaut that was the Melbourne Storm. Did you think they could hold the Storm scoreless and win?
I didn't think they were dead and buried, but I was a bit worried when Reynolds went off, and also then Ben Hunt got the concussion. That was that Reece Walsh just stood up. He's rocks and diamonds, I know, but last night he was outstanding. Some of his defence probably went unnoticed as well. He made some try-saving tackles as well, so obviously worthy Clive Churchill medalist winner.
Yep, absolutely. All right, how do we compile that money into more money today, Northam?
Yeah, well, I thought we could kick it off. Race 3, number 8, Starlight Twix, coming to Burwood Park for the first time. But as we know, she would have had to have a trial there before she can race, so we know she's at least been there once. And she's coming off these 400-metre Mandurah runs where she was spearing lids and just getting tired. So I thought the drop back to the 297 looked ideal, and also the drop back to country grade for her really does look good placement by the team there. So she's been contested much tougher company than this, and I thought she'd be hard to beat. I know she's been heavily backed in early markets, so race 3, number 8 to kick us off.
All right, where do we go after that, Shayne?
Yeah, race 6, number 7, Diggs Charos Royal is an honest type. Does love racing here at Northam, was runner-up last start off the wide draw. I think this race does look a good setup for her, drawn outside the speedy Dashing Serpent in 6, so should get a lovely card across early doors, and I think we'll go close to winning race 6, number 7.
$4.60 with Tab Touch, and where's the third and final special?
Yeah, 10-1 Wisecracker, been racing really well from Paul Draws the one box tonight, where he does have a really good record from winning 2 out of 4. Coming out of some hot free-for-all races back to a mixed grade of 4-5, I think the box 1 could be the key for this bloke to bounce back into the winner's circle tonight. 10-1 Wisecracker to finish us off.
All right, 3-8, 6-7, 10-1. You said there'd been support for Starlight Twix. Is that your money?
Well, no, I was sound asleep when the markets went up, but 10-1 for me. Wisecracker's the best, boys. Yeah, just like the draw and just a grade dropper as well, Wisecracker.
All right, $1.90 as we sit here at the moment with Tab Touch. All right, Shayne, public holiday over there, but we're working over here, so good luck. We'll speak to you tomorrow.
I got a little bit confused, boys. I thought it was a public holiday back there, but that was last week. So anyway, we'll go again tomorrow. No public holidays anywhere.
All right, good on you, mate. Great to chat. We'll chat again tomorrow.
Talk then. See you, boys.
All right, there's Shayne Williams. 3-8, 6-7, best 10-1. Best 10-1, of course. You're taking on Matt Young, whose preview will be up a little bit later on the Sports Daily this morning at about 8:45 for Pinjarra, taking on his best for a chance to go into the draw for a $100 Tab Touch voucher. Someone's texting here, Diggers, just asking Scotty Waddles.
Yes.
Any idea what time the first race at Ascot will be Saturday?
Oh,
I believe now at Ascot we're having 10 race programs.
We're certainly going back to, I didn't know it was, is it 10 all the way through?
I believe so.
Right, okay.
If I read the email correctly, because opening times for Perth racing is being pushed back an hour than it was last season because there's 10 races on the program, so obviously training hours will go a little bit later.
I'm just having a look here whilst we're chatting, TC. You're right, 10. So we've got the Max Simmons for the 3-year-olds. That's the feature. The No Metro Mile, 2-year-old 1,000, the initial plate. A Grad 14, a Grad 18, a 6612, a 6622, a 72,000, a 78 1400, and a Westbeat Platinum 11. So 10 of the best at Ascot on the weekend. You would think the first would be around midday. I would have thought. We can try to find that out for you, Scotty, but I would have thought around that stage.
Couldn't start too much later just yet, could you?
No, and the forecast for Saturday, I think, was 22, 23 degrees, partly cloudy, so it's going to be mild. But
dust off your suit. Do you know where it is?
Yes, I know where it is, so we'll get that out and get along. But, yeah, looking forward to it. Can't wait. I think we're all been looking ahead to Ascot. We've had one eye on it, haven't we, for a little while now. It's been a really wet, bleak winter. Full credit to everyone at Perth Racing. They were able to get Belmont up for the back half of that season. It looked in dire straits, so they've done a good job there. Unfortunately, there was a fair few meetings that were held provincially, but now that we're back at Ascot. I think we're all looking forward to that. The Max Simmons promises to be a select field. I don't think there's going to be a heap in it. I'll stand corrected. It'll be interesting to see what the noms look like tomorrow afternoon at 3, but there seems to be some headline acts.
Cork and Co?
Oh, yeah, I would have thought so. Yes, Queen would go there. Twisted Steel most definitely would go there. So
there's 3 of the better ones already.
Yeah, the top end ones are good. There's a couple of 3-year-olds trialling today. I don't think they'll probably find their way there on Saturday, but you can watch for them going forward. So all in all, yeah, it's going to be great to get back to Ascot, and before you know it, we're going to be, looking at good Group 3s, Group 2s, and then we'll have the railway, the Group 1, the mile.
Absolutely. We'll try and project forward with, hopefully there might be some feature winners out of Kalgoorlie there on Saturday going forward to Ascot. We'll discuss that meeting a little bit more in depth just after 7:30 on the Sports Daily this morning. But this time of the year, we turn to Tony Jones with all the latest news in trades because he loves it so much. TJ, good morning to you.
Oh, my God. Seriously, I just put my hands in the air and I leave it to everyone else because, we've got Tom Morris, who's our chief footy reporter, and he knows the trades before they're actually done. So I just say, mate, what are we doing? And he goes, oh, you're going to love it tonight. I say, okay, I'll talk to you at 6.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. Guys, just before we talk trades and NRL, presumably, I know you touched on it at the top of the show, but very, very sad, the passing of Warren Huntley, who was just a great racing man here in Victoria in particular, losing his battle with cancer at just 63. He was just one of the great track watchers, wasn't he? And his resume in racing, whether it be, booking jockeys or, producing radio programs, hosting radio programs, and he was just an absolute constant. And I know my own time at the track, be it track work over the spring, being a spring specialist where you just swoop in over the big races and then leave again. He was always there to sort of lend advice and information, and he was always just so willing to share it. So I was absolutely gobsmacked when I heard yesterday that he'd passed away, as did another racing identity in the form of Hilton Donaldson, who was a caller based in South Australia, and he'd certainly had his battles over the years. And I actually started in radio with Hilton at 3 in Wangaratta, and I remember out at my place at Tarrawinji once, we were having a few beers, and he played me a cassette of a phantom call that he did at the Wangaratta harness racing. I'm like, what, are you serious? Like, just a sensational race caller.
Yeah.
So, yeah, look, I'm not going to say a wasted talent, but, he could have been a whole lot more. But anyway, so very, very sad that racing lost two of its identities.
Yeah, I think so. I think you summed it up very well. Certainly Warren was part of the TAB radio family over here for a lot of years, and as you said, 63. He was a man admired by many, and he can rest easy now. So condolences to his family and in this difficult time. Now, you talk trades. We'll talk NRL in a second, but this trade, exchange, free agency, it's a season in itself, isn't it, TJ? It just gets bigger every year. The movement becomes more prolific.
Well, I think the shock value has been taken out of it now. We're no longer shocked at anything. It's like Christian Petrarca flies over to Adelaide, meets with them, and you think, oh, okay. And then next thing he's at the Gold Coast, then next thing he's nominating the Gold Coast. And, we should be shocked, but we're not. Clayton Oliver meets with the club. They say, explore your options, mate. And it's like, okay, fine. Here's a guy. What does it say about long-term contracts too? Here's a guy that's still got 5 years to run on his contract for an absolute bucket load, and yet Melbourne's prepared to pay, half of that until 2030. It's a very,
so where do we go, TJ? What can be done to mitigate the? And we talk about players getting up and going, and contracts aren't worth what the paper they're written on. In this instance, it's the club saying, well, off you go. So the club's at fault here. We talk about Petrarca, so they've got 2 bites of the cherry here, Melbourne. But what needs to be done, do you think, or what can be done in the short to mid-term to just get away from this predicament that we face each year?
Well, those 2 words, short and mid-term. Don't worry about long-term. You've got to go the short and mid-term contracts. It worked with Buddy. And I guess people still use that as the yardstick. But what Hawthorn get for Buddy, like pick 18 or something. So I think the onus is on the clubs. There's nothing the AFL can do to regulate it. The onus is on the clubs to say, hey, listen, we're not giving 9 or 10-year contracts anymore, right? We'll give you a 2-3 year deal, but we're not doing anything beyond that. I mean, how can you possibly sign someone to a 9-year deal and expect them to be the player in 6 years that they are today?
But when you say that, TJ, and I don't disagree with you, but if it's the old saying, a player will say, well, I want a 9-year deal, and you say, as the CEO of Collingwood, no, you're not getting a 9-year deal, North Melbourne will pop up and say, we'll give you 9 years, and they'll go, okay, I'll take that. So there needs to be, I suppose, a uniformed approach, does it not, from the clubs? Because if one club doesn't give it, another club will.
Yeah, but you're not going to have clubs like North Melbourne playing ball because they're just waiting, like in first slip, just waiting for someone to sort of blink, and then they're beautifully poised. They've got cash and all the rest of it. But I mean, St Kilda's had an unbelievable trade period, and you think to yourself, where's all that money coming from? There must be some players on some pretty low incomes at Moorabbin. So I don't know. I mean, that to me, your solution would be the only solution. In the clubs need to get together and say, hey, you know what? We're not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
But I just can't understand how clubs like Melbourne operate when they're willing. They're actually bringing it upon themselves to pay someone's wages, or part thereof, over a 5-year period. It's bizarre. And then, you've got the situation, Myercheck leaving Collingwood for Melbourne, and you think, oh, okay, geez, that's sort of a little left field, but it's not, because the talks were presumably underway mid-season, if not before. The scuttlebutt's been around there for a while. So I don't know. It is crazy. I mean, it is just like trade period officially begins today, although it seems to have gone on for weeks. But no one's talking about the draft.
No.
It's just this trade period, which is an absolute frenzy, and it's probably going to continue right up until the death knock, as it did last year with Jake Stringer, if you remember. His management team with Paul Connors and Robbie D'Orazio were just really playing hardball and eventually got the deal done. So I think it'll go down to the wire again.
Well, something needs to change there, and I think something needs to change with the draft too, TJ, because you're going to end up with 5 or 6 clubs getting end of first round pick draft compensation. The first round's going to go for 33 picks.
But if that's the deals they're brokering, then so be it. I mean, it is quite odd. I mean, and then to complicate matters, they have future picks. So very bizarre. But it is a world of its own. It's almost like when the season finishes, the season actually starts.
The NRL Grand Final didn't pan out the way that a lot of Melburnians would have liked, but it was still a spectacle.
Yeah, well, I mean, geez, I'll tell you what, if you're the Mayor of Brisbane, you'd be pretty happy at the moment. You've got the NRL and the AFL trophy. So,
Olympics coming.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't be high-fiving just yet. They've got a bit of work to do.
Get a stadium or two.
They've got a lot of work to do there. I was talking to someone recently about that, actually, and they were painting a beautiful picture of revamping stadiums, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure you need to build new ones. You can't rely on, the Commonwealth Games from the early 80s to still be servicing. Look, you have this conversation all the time about Olympics leading up to it. Oh, it's not going to be ready. It's not going to be ready. It happens that they get the job done. But when you look at the way Paris staged it, LA is going to be something else altogether. And then, it's a hard act to follow for Brisbane, but hopefully they'll do it. They've got some pretty good heads up there sort of overseeing it all, and we just hope that they can get the job done. And everyone in Brisbane gets behind it.
Well, even Reynolds on the podium after the game, he had a shot at the Premier, build a bigger stadium. So everyone's getting on board there.
Well, what they get, 80,000, so probably deserve more. That grand final was a ripper. Yeah. There'll be debate, and there's a bit of sour taste in our mouths here with Reece Walsh's big hit, and maybe he should have got sent off, but we'll never know, will we?
No, exactly right. Thank you very much for your time, TJ. I'm sure we'll catch up and talk more about long-term contracts and trades next week.
Well, and the other thing too, of course, is that you guys, your rugby league team over there, the Bears, are really into Cam Munster.
Yes. So I'm not sure whether that result last night influences Cam's decision one way or the other, but they're coming hard for him over here. That is exactly right.
We'd like a $5 million sign-on bonus.
Yeah, well, which is similar to what Tassie might be offering Nick Dacos. But the Storm chairman has said that they're not going to stand in his way to actually talk to the Bears. So anyway, maybe it's a fait accompli. Who knows?
All right. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great week, TJ.
See you guys.
From Channel 9 in Melbourne there, Tony Jones after the NRL final. And it's a bit to work through in the AFL. Just seems like there's a few people just a little bit unhappy with everything that's going on, or I don't know if unhappy is the right word.
I think there's a level of unease about how, not so much how easy it is to move, but like, I know we all maybe have a sense of traditionalism about us in that you want a player to be a one club. Well, that dream's just about gone now. And it just seems unfathomable to think that a Christian Petrarca under contract for 4 more years can just say, I'm out. Or like, I am out. And it looks increasingly apparent that Melbourne will facilitate the trade.
Yeah.
Rather than say, no, you're a contracted player, you will be here. We don't care if you're not at your peak powers. We expect you to act like a professional. It's just like, okay. So you think, well, you ask supporters to invest financially and emotionally in your football club, come together for this journey, and then a player just says, nah, I'm out.
What happens if the Gold Coast, for all argument's sake, Melbourne want 3 first-round draft picks? Gold Coast say no. And then nothing happens, can't get the deal done. Melbourne, if he wants out, he has to go to the national draft, or he's under contract?
No, he's under contract. No, he's there.
So he just comes back to Melbourne.
He comes back to Melbourne. Like, what about Cozzy Pickett? Like, Cozzy Pickett signed that massive deal mid-year under the guise that Gawn's here, Oliver's here, Petrarca's here, Goodwin's here. He was being lured by Fremantle. What if Cozzy Pickett at the end of next year says, you know what? Actually, I signed under false pretences here. I'm out.
How many years did he get?
I think he signed an 8-year deal. So there's nothing to stop Cozzy Pickett in 12 months' time, his management saying to Fremantle, are you interested? And they go, yeah, absolutely we are. We can accommodate that. And then he leaves. Something has to be done. There needs to be an intervention of sorts from either the AFLPA or the AFL to just stop this proliferation of movement.
AFLPA. All right, we'll head to a break. We'll come back with more of the Sports Daily on the other side of 7.
What happened on this day in years gone by?
Okay, born on this day, 1975, the English actress Kate Winslet. She was in the Titanic.
Yeah.
TC.
Who couldn't hit water out of the Titanic last week?
Yeah, Devon Robinson. That's a bit harsh, isn't it? Okay, on this day, all the way back 1918, Allied forces broke through the Hindenburg Line in the Great War. 1962, the first instalment in the James Bond film series, Dr. No, had its world premiere. The British spy film was adapted from Ian Fleming's novel and starred the late, great Sean Connery.
James Bond or Ethan Hunt?
James Bond, for me. Daniel Craig reinvigorated the Bond.
When was the last?
A little while ago. Yeah, but he was outstanding. Outstanding. On this day, 1969, the British TV series Monty Python's Flying Circus made its debut on the BBC and proved to be a watershed for TV comedy around the world. And on this day, 14 years ago, American businessman Steve Jobs, a pioneer of the personal computer era, and he co-founded Apple and transformed it into the world's most successful company, or one of, passed away at the age of 56.
Did okay for himself.
Very well.
All right, back on the Sports Daily. Andrew Bensley to join us to chat about the memories of Warren Huntley, Matt Welsh to wrap up Flemington on Saturday, and then Billy Beament to wrap up Kalgoorlie on Saturday as well. Of course, the winning slot holder there, Magnificent Andy, taking out the Golden Saddle.
Radio, your station of choice. Each weekday morning from 5:30 with the Sports Daily.
Welcome back to the Sports Daily. You're with Taylor Courtland and Digby Beacham. 0427 789 571, the number for the Retrovision text line. Of course, you are taking on Matt Young and his best bet from Pinjarra this afternoon for your chance to go into the draw for a $100 Tab Touch voucher. His preview, and we'll get his best just before 8:45, of course, from 9 o'clock as well, off and pacing. All right, we'll get on to our next guest. It's great to have him on the station. Once again, Andrew Bensley, but unfortunately under these circumstances, with all due respect, Andrew, we'd rather not talk to you, but a very good morning to you.
Yes, good morning to you, Taylor and Digby, and everyone there in the West. And yeah, you're so right. I wish I was talking about the Spring Carnival with you, but yesterday we had the sad news that Warren Huntley, who'd been a member of your team for a good number of years, lost a battle against cancer that he's been fighting for just over 2 years. And 63, Warren lost his life yesterday morning early, and I know the social media reaction to it yesterday just showed how popular Warren was.
Andrew, the outpouring of emotion and support for Warren, you quite rightly touched on, has been immense, and you can certainly understand why. He was a high-class human being who meant so much to so many.
He was, Digby. I think that the one thing that many of your listeners, listening to Warren, learnt that he did his form and he knew what he was tipping. As a tipster, you can be wrong probably more than right. But he was a form analyst and he loved doing it. Over the last, 6 to 12 months, there have been times that Warren hasn't been able to come on air because of what he was dealing with the cancer, and he really missed it. Talking to him as a friend, and I think the scope of it is that he just loved watching replays, listening to trainers, what they're saying about their horses. He loved hosting the Saturday morning on our station here, RSN, doing the interviews with the trainers and learning more about them and trying. But he also always, Digby, had the listener in mind, that he was always trying to find the information that they wanted so they could either back the horse that they thought that they wanted to or not. And I think that many people will know the quality of Warren Huntley and the form that he used to do to tip on many radio stations in Australia.
How long did you work with him, Andrew?
I got to know Warren, it was about 20 years ago. He started at he was at Cadbury Schweppes at the time, working there, and then Gavin Spain, or it really goes back, Des Spain, and then his son Gavin were the clockers at Flemington. They were there most mornings clocking horses, and at that time, 25 years ago, that sort of information to the punter was valuable. It used to get printed up in the papers, and while the sportsman may continue to do it now in some smaller capacity and the winning post, back 25 years ago, it was so important. Warren started going out there under his own sort of, he started getting into racing, and he thought, well, I'm going to start doing this. And he went out Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturday mornings. He started clocking horses, getting used to it. Gavin gave it up, and Warren officially took it over. And I know that he felt privileged to be in the famous Flemington training tower because he was there when Bart was there at his times of the year. He was there all year round with Mike Moroney, who, Mike is, Mike trained Perno that Warren was in to win a Group 1 race, and I know that Warren always related that. But that was where my introduction to Warren began as a clocker at Flemington. But over that period, he joined RSN, and for the last 10 years, or just under the last 10 years, Taylor, he's been on .com. So he's done most facets of the racing game now.
You mentioned Mike Moroney. We know that he passed only recently, and Taylor and I were talking off air. Andrew, it's been a challenging time for Victorian racing over the past 2 or 3 years. We only have to go back to the passing of Dino as well.
Yeah, look, you're right, Digby, and not many know this, but it was the day that we had the Dean Lester funeral that Warren Huntley was told early in the morning that he had cancer. And not many of us obviously knew for a while after that, but that was the morning that that Warren got told that he had cancer within his body, and therefore it started treatment and things like that. I hope that they're together right now. I'm not too sure whether none of us know what the future is once we pass, but I hope they are together, because I know that Warren always thanked Dean for getting him into RSN in Melbourne. They needed a producer on a Sunday morning show, correct weight. The previous producer left. Dean put Warren's name up for that, and that's where Warren's introduction to radio began, as a producer and then going on air as a form analyst. So in some capacity, I hope they are together and they're enjoying a red wine, because Warren loved red wine. We had one at home last night for him. The other aspect of that, Digby, is that, sadly there's been Mike Moroney and a number of others, but we learned yesterday morning that Hilton Donaldson sadly lost his life yesterday morning, and Hilton had been battling a number of aspects of his life over the last 10 to 15 years. But I must admit, because I was so close to Warren and knew that it was close, that he was going to be passing, that yesterday's news of Hilton passing did shock me more, because you weren't expecting it. A tweet from Terry McAuliffe saying that I've just received a call from Hilton's son that he's passed. It shook me more for a number of hours there yesterday, because you just weren't expecting it. And Hilton was 60, Warren 63. It's just far too young.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'd go a long way to find a more humble tipster than Warren Huntley. He was absolutely fantastic to us. And during Dino's sickness, Andrew, he'd be in touch with us, because he was the man that we'd turn to fill in on the tips and the analysis. And then as he was getting a little bit of information about his health, he'd say, no, I don't want this publicised. I'll keep this nice and quiet, but I'll do what I can, and I'll fill in when I can. So he was just a joy to work with.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, that he was humble in his own within himself, that he just wanted to do the job. He was getting paid for doing the job, but he would have done it for nothing, if you know what I mean. He loved doing it. The amazing thing for mine with Warren was just he was always there. If someone fell ill and you needed someone, you could ring Warren within an hour. He would have quickly put a set of tips together. He would have done a quick array of form, and he'd do it for the stations that required it. So, Warren was one that tipped the card. A few years ago at Kilmore, he tipped the 9 winners. And while many on the day were saying, there was a few short price favourites had that he tipped. Well, sometimes you just got to tip them. And he tipped the 9 winners. He got the accolades that he deserved. And he has a frame at his house that proudly sits there, that was put together by the .com media team, that I know his wife Leanne will treasure forever, that Warren tipped the 9 winners on that day at Kilmore. I will say that I and Greg Miles and our wives visited Warren 8 days ago now, last Sunday week, yesterday week. And while we knew that he was unwell, I would never have thought that we would have lost Warren within that week. He did decline quickly, and he's, as hard as it is that we're not going to speak to Warren again, he's in a far better place now, because the last few days in the decline, he needed the rest, and now he is resting in peace.
Yeah, absolutely. Really well said, Andrew. Thank you very much for your time. I think it was important here, especially on Tab Radio over here in Perth, that we are able to pay tribute to Warren Huntley and all the work he did for us and our listeners over here in Perth. So thank you very much for your time, and I'm sure, well, we're going to have to catch up again very shortly in much happier circumstances and talk about the Spring Carnival.
Yeah, Taylor, I think that's the one thing, and I'll say it quickly. While many of us knew that it was close, I think yesterday when people learnt of it, they are in shock. And many of your listeners in Perth, as it was in Melbourne and Sydney, when the news happened yesterday morning, for thousands of your listeners, they would have been in shock because they were unaware how close it was. So to many of them, they'll still be waking up today thinking, geez, Warren Huntley isn't with us. So to them, and I know Warren would want me to say this, he would have said, thanks for the loyal times with Perth Radio and for them listening to him through those years that he's been on the station. So next time we might be talking about Sir Dalius and a Melbourne Cup win.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Andrew. Have a very good day.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
There's Andrew Bensley, of course, a long time, media performer there in the racing industry.
Yep.
We had him on our station for years and years, and then over the last, it's probably been 3 or 4 years, he's been at RSN, and unfortunately we know what's happened there, but hopefully we can get that back to somewhere near its best sometime soon. All right, we'll keep moving here on the Sports Daily. Take a look at Flemington. Time now on the Sports Daily to catch up with Matt Welsh from betsy.com.au. Matt, a very good morning to you.
Good to be with you.
Great to have a chat to you again, Matt. A fair bit to unpack from a Turnbull which had plenty of meat on the bone in regards to it.
Yeah, it certainly did. Fantastic day of racing, first and foremost. And Melbourne weather, we know how good the Melbourne weather is. It really turned it on for Saturday. There's probably nothing more fickle than the Melbourne weather, but we had a rare good one on Saturday, and the racing on the track matched it as well. It was a terrific day, and a day that's often called moving day, and I think a number of horses put their hands up for what's ahead this spring.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we might cast our eye forward to a Cox Plate then, and Sir Delius, he's going that way. He's absolutely airborne. With Tab Touch, he's equal favourite with Via Sistina at 3.10. What did you make of his performance, first of all?
Oh, it was just terrific. I mean, he's just a fantastic horse. He's got so much potential. I think he's also about $3.50 for a Melbourne Cup at the moment, which is just unheard of a month out from the race. But it's going to take a really special performance to beat him in the Melbourne Cup. But first and foremost, the likes of Via Sistina, Aliana, and I suppose to a lesser extent Treasure the Moment, look like they sort of had a mortgage on the Cox Plate after their very good first up runs in Wink Stakes and Memsey Stakes. But now, rightfully, Sir Delius is heading towards the top of that market because he was just too good for them at 2,000 metres on Saturday. Sat a little bit wide early, but Craig Williams got him into a beautiful spot in the run and he powered away from them. The one little question mark I have over Antino, Via Sistina and Aliana is we touched on how slowly a run race that Maccabi Diva was leading in. All three of them potentially half a run short on Saturday. Antino peaked on his run. He looked like he was going to probably put them away on the top of the turn and peaked on his run. I thought Half Yours, Via Sistina had every chance to reel in the leaders. And Aliana, I think, raced like a horse who's looking for 2,400 metres now. So I wonder if Chris Waller potentially diverts to a Caulfield Cup with her. Problem is she's got to try and beat Half Yours, who went straight past her on Saturday and is airborne. And that was as good a Caulfield Cup trial as you see from Half Yours, who was in poorly at the set weights and penalties, but he just hit the line beautifully for 2,400 metres in 2 weeks' time. So, look, really good race. I think Sir Delius has put his hand up. He's the one they've got to beat this spring. Jury's out on Via Sistina. Antino was good. He had to sit wide, but it wasn't a strong tempo. And then, as I said, I think Aliana's potentially looking for 2,400 now.
Aesthetically, it looked outstanding from Half Yours. Matt, what did the figures say?
Yeah, no, it was a terrific performance. I mean, it wasn't a fast-run race. I actually thought he'd settle a little bit handier like he did in the naturalism the start prior from that good gate. But, look, got a mile back. And as I said, on the numbers and visually, it was as good a Caulfield Cup trial as you could possibly want for. So, a remarkable story because I think Tony and Calvin McAvoy only bought this horse earlier in the year, a tried horse they bought online from the Mars stable. Middle of winter, he was considered a wet tracker. He was up there in Queensland, went around in the Caloundra Cup. I've backed him first up at Sandown, I think it was, from memory, back in March, and he couldn't even win a benchmark 64 at that stage. But now, rightfully at the top of Caulfield Cup market. So it just shows you can find a good horse anywhere. And well done to Tony and Calvin McAvoy, who identified this horse, bought him, and now Connections are reaping the benefits.
Yeah, $3.50 with Tab Touch for a Caulfield Cup, and they had a pretty good day, Tony and Calvin McAvoy, because they might have the Victorian Derby favourite too after what happened there on Saturday. We might actually touch on that, Matt, just quickly. Options, is he probably the number one seed in a year going out to this distance with 3-year-olds where it might be a little bit thin at the top?
Maybe. Look, it was a good win. He had the blinkers going off. Race dominated by the swoopers, with Miwa also coming from the tail. Probably dominated by the better stayers, to be honest. But the horse that I want to follow out of the race is Arabian Prince. Nick Kent is known for doing the slightly unusual with his horses. He's not the most conventional trainer, and this horse debuted at 1,800 metres in the winter as a 2-year-old and ran very well behind Buckloo. And then again, he was first up without a trial on Saturday. He hammered the line from the back of the field, and he looks, to me, the strongest of the stayers out of that race. So if I'm following one out of the Superimpose, I'm definitely following Arabian Prince. I think he can turn the tables on all of those horses on Saturday. But I think at this stage, the Derby is wide open. And there's the potential for a horse to emerge from nowhere. And I touched on it a couple of weeks ago. At the end of the day, a lot of these horses ultimately won't get 2,500 metres, and a lot of them ultimately aren't stayers. But to me, Arabian Prince is the one that really has a lot of potential.
Matt, how did you walk away from the Bart Cummings on the weekend?
Well, having back Gilded Water, I walked away sick. It was in incredible race shape. They went about 20 lengths above standard to the 800-metre mark. So you could visually see that the Gilded Water was leading by a space. I think set up about probably a 7 or 8 length lead in the mid-stages, and he was just going too quick. Jamie Mellon said post-race that she struggled to control the horse, tried to get him to ease, but he wouldn't. Whichever way you skin it, it was a huge effort just to hang on and run third. Probably the challenge they've got now is, has that run taken too much out of him? He's still not qualified for a Melbourne Cup, so he's going to have to go to a Geelong Cup or a Moonee Valley Gold Cup and try and win one of those golden ticket races. And they're only 9 and 12 days away, so it's going to be tough for Kieran Maher and the team to piece this bloke back together after that on Saturday, because that was just a torrid run. Question the form outside of him out of the race. I mean, Valiant King went around 60-1. Maybe the blinkers going on the first time just made a big difference, but I think he also got a race shape to suit. And you look at second, Torrenzino was up on that speed and ended up sticking on and running second. So it was a pretty good effort from him, but he went around 70-1. So I'm a little bit jury out on that Bart Cummings form. The one thing I will note is Revelaro got into a genuinely run race at 2,500 metres for the first time, and he looked to really struggle over the concluding stages. I know he's going to drop in weight heading towards a cup, but I'm still a little bit concerned about him at 2,000 metres plus. So it was an interesting Bart Cummings, but Gilded Water certainly the talking point out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, the Dane Hill, McGaw won, sort of muddies the waters a little bit even more going towards a Coolmore.
Yeah, well, the breeders won't be 100% happy with a gelding knocking off a filly and the colt's not there in the finish of the Danehill. I'll be hoping it reverses in the Coolmore, but a great story. Emily and David Brown, who train this horse, they're wonderful people. I've met them a few times and always enjoy chatting to them at the races. So great to see them have a really big race success on Saturday. The horse, of course, misnamed due to a spelling mistake. He was meant to be named after Richie McCaw, the famous All Blacks captain, and they accidentally put a a G there instead of a C. But he was good. And full credit here to Damien Lane and Jamie Mott. They rode Magore and My Gladiola, who ran 1-2. They were the two who went to the outside towards the outside rail. All the other jockeys sort of meandered through the middle of the track. It was clear by the end of the day that the outside section was the best part of the track. So they did well to stick to their guns and stay out there, and ultimately they fought out the race, Magore and My Gladiola. I thought Tentris was good in third. Nice little pipe opener. I think it'll be very hard to beat going forward out of this race. The disappointment was Rosberg. He was boom horse. Clinton McDonald had been talking him up. He was beaten 10 lengths. He was found to have some shin soreness post-race. But it's also noteworthy late in betting that he was really soft on the exchange. I think he ended up starting nearly $5.20. So I don't know if it was a poor parade or what he was doing when he went out on the track. But, he was disappointing, and he'll now go for a spell. So hopefully he bounces back in the autumn. But I just don't think it's the strongest group of 3-year-olds at the moment heading towards that Coolmore. And Magore and My Gladiola certainly deserve to be right towards the top of markets.
Seems to be a common theme, the 3-year-old bats this season. What about the return of War Machine, and can he play a part in the Everest?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think all things being equal, they're potentially all running for second behind Ka Ying Rising, who I think we see trial tomorrow morning. But this was a really dominant win from War Machine. I mean, for mine, to date, he'd been sort of probably a better 1,400-metre horse, but he was trucking in behind them at the 300-metre mark. Blake Shin had a lap full of horse and put them away so effortlessly. So wonderful return from him. It's obviously a different scenario heading up to a high-pressure Everest around a bend, where he's probably going to spot them a reasonable start. But he deserves his spot in the race in a year that the Everest has thinned out outside the top end of it. And whatever he does thereafter, I imagine they'll probably campaign on after the Everest. He'll find more races that he can win, probably back to the straight for a VRC sprint on the last day of the carnival. He's done a wonderful job since joining Ben Will and JD Hayes, and it's also a credit to the work that Mike Moroney had done preparing this horse through his younger years. He's an absolute ripper. And leave us with a horse to follow in the last. Shadizi finished ninth. It was one of the best nights you'll ever see. The instructions to Craig Williams were to ride this horse quietly, and boy, oh boy, he did that. He restrained the horse out of the gates. He got over racing terribly at the back of the field off a slow tempo, but he went to the line with a lap full of horse. He could have easily been in the finish had they pressed forward out of the barriers. I suspect they're probably going to go to a mile next start with this former French galloper, and yeah, I think he'll be awfully hard to beat next time out. So it might say ninth in the form guide, guys, but it should have said 1, 2 or 3 for mine. I think Shadizi will be very, very hard to beat and one to follow. All right, race number 10 there at Flemington, number 12. For those with Tab Touch Black Book accounts, go and select Shadizi and put him into the Black Book. Thank you very much for your time, Matt, after a day that was very tough for the Victorian racing industry. Yeah, very tough with the loss of Warren Huntley on Sunday, who I think you guys had on your program, or certainly had on the channel many times. I worked with Warren for a number of years, including managing him at racing.com, and you just wouldn't find a better person, someone who cared for his family more than Warren. And he'd been through a lot of challenges with his daughter over the last 4 or 5 years, and he just was an incredible person, a devoted person, and such a trustworthy, honest, nice gentleman. So really sad to lose Warren yesterday, and send my condolences to all the family. It'd be a very tough time for them. Really well said. Matt, thank you very much. We'll chat next week. Look forward to it. Have a good week.
Make Tab Radio your station of choice each weekday morning from 5:30 with the Sports Daily.
Taylor Courtland and Digby Beacham with you here on the Sports Daily. We haven't really gone into too much depth about the last couple of days here in WA racing-wise, Diggers, about Kalgoorlie, but Billy Beament, not too far away, of course, was the slot holder that selected Magnificent Andy for his slot and got the job done, Kalgoorlie boy. So we'll talk about the whole concept and how it all went down there on Saturday. I saw he was at the races. He was interviewed on Racing WA on the social media pages, so we'll get his thoughts on how it all went. But from a racing point of view, the Golden Saddle and how we make $1 going forward, Magnificent Andy We spoke about it last week, spoke about it Saturday morning on Inside Running. He was the best horse in that race, had the best credentials, and he turned up to the races in good enough form to get the job done.
Yeah, he did. Gun ride by Bradley Parnham. Not surprising there. We've seen Brad put a bow on so many of these horses in big races for a long period of time now. But a shout out to SJ Miller to get this horse first up to perform at his peak, because we do know that Magnificent Andy, he's a war horse, he's a beauty. Every race you aim him up at, he runs very, very well. He just doesn't know how to go unders. But 1,200 short of his best trip. This is a horse that we're likely to see in a northerly as the pinnacles progress. So that's 1,800 metres now. Horses can produce one fresh, that we know, but 1,200 is short of his best trip. But 2 trials, no headgear in those trials. The second trial, he's a little bit slow to step, savage the line, gets the cups on in a race where they ran okay in terms of tempo. They didn't probably burn like we thought they would, and that's because Bravo was perhaps...
couldn't find it.
Well, he was slow to step. He was a little bit slow to step, and from there, but they only ran 1:11.2, I think it was, 1:11.2 or 1:11.3, something like that. So it wasn't a scintillating run 1,200 metre weight for age event. They went along okay, but Magnificent Andy, huge. Yonga Lass, brilliant. Really good performance from this mare, underweight for age. We know that she's capable at that level. She got to the line brilliantly, so everything's in order for her, you would think, for the preparation ahead. Man Crush rediscovered some of his better form. Twain's Angel just got strung up in a little bit of traffic. Savage the line good. Red Can Man was good.
Yeah.
The old boy. Sean McGrady gave him a good push when we spoke to him in the Hour of Power on Friday. And Hanchy, solid enough. 1,200 at that level. Weight for age probably was a bit of a test. Snowdome, thoughts?
Money came strongly for him. I couldn't work that out, to be fair. Monday trial, he trialled well, but, for a sprinter like that wants a fresh legs, a Monday trial and then a trip to Kalgoorlie, I thought the setup was a little bit sticky, and then also the map looked a lot sticky. It worked out that way.
Yeah, map did look sticky, and he had to cover some extra ground, no doubt about that.
But clearly some of the big punters sort of realised that his best performances, his best ratings were clearly good enough to win a race like that. But, unfortunately for Connections there, just on the day, it just didn't work out. No, he is a weight for age winner, so we talk about horses being suited or competent at weight for age. He was one of them. But, certainly he didn't have the best run throughout, but he's probably gone a little bit unders, certainly what the market expected anyway. Yeah, absolutely. Do you know when we see Magnificent Andy next? Well, I actually had a chat to SJ yesterday and didn't talk about that. We spoke about a range of other issues. I would think he finds his way to a Lastia. You'd think that would... SJ said he licked the bin out. He'd just got home when I spoke to Steve, and he said everything was in. He said that he's just an unashamed admirer of the horse. He said he's just a ripper, he's point and shoot sort of stuff. So he said licked the bin out, travelled home beautifully. So you would think he'd have a couple of quiet days now, but he'd perhaps build towards a Lastia, which is weight for age. Then he'd find his way into a railway, and then he'd find his way into a northerly, you would think. Yep. So I think he was 113 rated going in, Magnificent Andy, if I'm not correct, if I'm not wrong. One of the highest rated horses in the state, wouldn't he? I think Belclair went around as the top weight in the Railway Stakes last year at 113. Right. So Western Empire, who will trial again today, I think I saw him in. Let's have a look at Western Empire's rating. He is 113. So they're going to be right there at the pointy end of the weights, aren't they, locally? Yeah, absolutely. And you'd say sort of you'd stick to the weight for age path, but horses like that, you probably just have a throw at the stumps with the railway. You sort of have to go that way, and then that primes you for an 1,800 metres where you're probably a little bit better suited. Now up to 18 for Magnificent Andy. Whether or not that's more of a winning distance for him, I'm not too sure, but like you said, he could almost go in any race and he'll run you an absolute bottler. Well, Western Empire's 8. Magnificent Andy 7. They're both clearly and still in excellent order. Western Empire's trial a fortnight ago was brilliant. It was breathtaking. So he's in excellent order, and Magnificent Andy off the back of 2 trials has resumed a winner. So all is in readiness, you would think, for an excellent campaign. Well, Macca brought it up on Inside Running as well Saturday that the Hannah's crowd on Thursday was a little bit below expectations, and then I'm not too sure what the crowd numbers were like there on Saturday. If anyone wants to get in touch, 0427789571. But would you consider, I suppose you have to factor in the fact that people were on track into this, but would you consider the move with the Golden Saddle a success? Beaming up the round, a little bit more popularity.
I think there was more chatter around Kalgoorlie Cup Day on the weekend just gone than we'd had in recent times.
Yep.
Considerably more.
I agree with that.
So, and it's not costing... The beauty with the slot race format is they effectively fund themselves, don't they? And you've got some pretty big backing from the government, some heavy hitters with Kalgoorlie links, Goldfields links involved as well. We're about to have a chat to Bill Beament, who we know is very much invested in the region. So I would think the Golden Saddle has been a success, and when you're getting a horse like Magnificent Andy winning in the manner that he did, and he's, this is a seriously good animal. A seriously good animal. There's so much to like about the Golden Saddle for an inaugural running. I would say it's a big tick, and then hopefully we can build from here.
Is there a world where the Hannons moves to the Saturday?
And make it a Super Saturday?
Yeah.
It would need a rejig, would it not, of not only of the programming but also your races. So on one day you would have an 1100 metre Ron Sayers, a 1200 metre Saddle, and a 1400 metre Hannons. I'm not sure. I don't know. Is it a long way to go for one day if you've got horses?
Or do you need a feature on that Thursday?
Well,
because I know it acts, sort of Perth racing wise, and the changeover between Belmont and Ascot, it works perfectly, like timing wise, with the Metropolitan racing, and probably works perfect with a Thursday to Saturday. Trainers can maybe go up early and they take their horses up there. It works well for them if you've got horses on the Thursday and then the Saturday.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't mind the 2 days.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we just don't get boots on the ground at the races like we once did.
It's not as popular being on track anymore, is it? And that's
not a Kalgoorlie thing.
No, that's a racing thing.
That's a racing thing. There's just a decline in on-course attendance, and that's everywhere you look.
Well, the accessibility to have a bet from your lounge room's a lot easier than it used to be, and everyone talks about cost-wise and travelling to Kalgoorlie and accommodation and all that sort of things. In this instance, maybe that's a factor. I'm not too sure, but I don't know how we get people back to the races. Maybe it's a fight that we just need to maybe turn our attention to other places.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I'm not sure. I don't live in that space, but you certainly speak to enough administrators throughout Australia re-racing, and they always talk about the battle about getting people on course again.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, the Bunbury Turf Club have gone to a Super Saturday, haven't they?
Yep.
With their Stakes and Cup on the same day, but clearly those two differences, you're not sort of taking horses away from one race to get them into another. All right, we'll talk about the day a little bit more, and someone that was there might be able to give us a little bit more information. Bill Beament, who was successful, spit it out eventually, slot holder with Magnificent Andy taking out the inaugural Golden Saddle. Bill, a very good morning to you, and thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, good morning, guys.
Good morning, Bill. How was Saturday?
Well, I heard you talk about attendance on course. So it was a fantastic day, and the town just had a buzz about it. From the Friday sort of lead-up events into the Saturday races, the town was heaving and buzzing, and atmosphere was amazing.
All right. How was the excitement when Magnificent Andy crossed the line?
Well, it was just so special because, obviously it's an inaugural race, and it was designed to sort of, make, sort of rev up the Kel Cup and again, sort of bring quality fields of horses back into town, which it ultimately did because each stable, I think, bought 6 or 7 horses that, normally wouldn't be there. So it was a magical event, and it was just so special for David Rehn, being the iconic, Kalgoorlie racing identity at 81 years of age. His acceptance speech was, it's the best horse he's ever owned, and it was the pinnacle of his racing career at 81. So that was quite emotional, mate. I think it was a tear in the house, definitely by David and his family and me on the sidelines cheering for him.
Bill, how long have you known David?
For a very long time, mate, because I did my uni days in Kalgoorlie, so I watched his horse Signpost, which the museum's named after there, as a 17-year-old. I just dobbed myself in the chance at 17. But I watched that in 92, win the treble, and got the extra $100,000 bonus. But, so I've known David and his family. In fact, his son was my neighbour for a number of years in Perth, so close connection there.
Outstanding.
Let's just say I targeted that horse 9 months out from the event.
Yeah, well, clearly you've identified the right animal there, no question about that. We had a good chat to Eddie Rigg 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we were speaking about the Golden Saddle and the initiative, and he mentioned your involvement from day dot when you sold this plan and to Saturday. Did it achieve everything that you hoped it would, Bill?
Look, we've got to have our debrief because we're all still recovering from the Cal race round. It's a bit like diggers and dealers. It takes you a few days to recover. Look, I think absolutely, and the feedback I've got from everyone that it's been or was there or heard about it, it was amazing. And yeah, look, it's the first step. You never get everything right the first go, but it's definitely something to build on. And everyone that was there, they're all coming back next year. And it was not about the Golden Saddle, guys. It was, again, when we had a Friday speech, there was a past committee member there that got inducted in the Hall of Fame after 74 Cal Cups that he's been to. And, he made a comment that in 92 when Signpost won, the Cal Cup was $100,000. It's only 150 now, and it's 2025. So our intention was always to get the Golden Saddle up there and get the crowds up and the relevance, and the Cal Cup should be a $300,000 race moving forward. So don't worry, we did a bit of work on the Premier and Papalia there as that's a 130-year-old race. You can't just invent those things, and the ultimate goal was to elevate the Cup again.
Yeah, and those gentlemen were on track up there on Saturday. So you speak about the crowds and things. How was it Thursday and Saturday crowd number-wise?
Yeah, look, Thursday was down a little bit, what I heard, the Hannons, and I think that's because a lot of people, again, it's pretty hard to take days off when you're on a consistent roster. And, I used to have 4,500 direct employees in town, so I'm probably the fault of that. But Saturday is definitely, there was a very, very large crowd there on Saturday. So, and you also have to be mindful of, I think once we reach 6,500 people there, the facilities literally break, toilets overflow, all that sort of stuff. So we'll keep building it up. But there was definitely a huge crowd there. It felt bigger than the crowd last year and the year before that I went. So, but it definitely had a better vibe about it and buzz about it in the town. That was the part that was noticeable.
Bill, you know the town better than most. How's it going?
Gold at 5,900 an ounce. It's flying. I don't think there's anyone that's if anyone in that town that wants to be employed isn't employed. If they aren't, then they don't want to be. So look, the town is very, very busy at this gold price, and with the resource sectors is full. So, I know it felt good, but again, I had vested interest of a race that we helped cement, but definitely felt good around town.
So the Beament Racing Syndicate is successful, clearly, on the weekend with Magnificent Andy for David and Stephen. Are you looking to be a key pillar of this race for years to come?
Well, look, absolutely. And, like one thing when you ask the government for money, it looks more favourable when private people put their money in with it. So, and it makes the decision easier. So when I approached Eddie and we got together, there was commitment to support the slot, moving forward. And, and that's why my company's sponsoring it as well. So to just, it's easy to go into the Premier's office and Minister Papalia and ask for some support when you put your own money in. And look, I'm an inaugural slot holder with Danny Orton, and they've been doing that for years. I just think it's an amazing concept for racing. And I think there'll be more of them in the future. And they're hugely successful when you go to the Everest and see what happens. And see what the Quokka and where that's heading. The Quokka will end up being a $10 million race in years to come. So I just think it's a fantastic concept and love supporting it.
Do you have any short-term plans for the Golden Saddle? You outlined what you'd like to happen with the Kalgoorlie Cup. What about the Golden Saddle? Is there any short-term plans with that race going forward?
Oh, look, we've got the commitment off the government for 3 years, and I think they got a very, very good taste of what those style races and country races generate. And, Minister Papalier was up in Broome Cup, and I managed to see him up there earlier on this year. And I think there's really great recognition from the government of how important those regional race meets are for those communities. They are the Kel Cup is the number one social event of the year, and it brings the whole town together. So, I'll keep supporting it there, and hopefully the government keeps supporting it, and because they're so important for the regional communities.
Bill, how excited are you about King of Light, who you have a share in?
Yeah, I'm having a bit of a purple patch at the Rustislow, King of Light.
Yes.
Repossession. Yeah, we when you get a purple patch, you got to hang on to it. So it's King of Light. I saw the video from when Willie got off it the other day, and he can't wait to jump back on that. So yeah, super excited about that horse, and hopefully gets to a Guineas and brings home the chocolates.
Geez, you'll have plenty of trips to Perth then, by the sounds of things, with just 3 horses you named there.
I live in Perth now, but yeah. So no, I've got some good fodder coming into the carnival. So cross, got to be in it to win it.
That you do, Bill. Great to have a chat to you this morning. Congratulations on the victory of Magnificent Andy in the Golden Saddle, a race which is clearly dear to your heart.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Cheers.
Yes, Bill Beament, of course, the Beament Racing Syndicate selecting a Magnificent Andy for the Golden Saddle, the inaugural Golden Saddle on Saturday. Yeah. And as we spoke about, far too good. Couple of text messages coming through. Diggers make the carnival Friday, Saturday.
Well, what they do in Scone.
Yes.
That's what they do, don't they?
Yep,
Back them up. Yeah, but, yeah, look, I like the fact that a race meeting and or round carnival, they're not like they once were. Like Bunbury had, a week-long round back in the day. There was the trots which were involved, and... the horses used to swim across, from the parade hotel. They had that. That's no longer. You have Broome, you've got Ladies' Day, the sprint, and then you've got the Cup. I like the fact that you can have the Hannons midweek and then you can have the Cup. Now, if you choose to support that race and or the round as a trainer, you can. If you want to wait until Ascot, you can. No one's forcing your hand. Mm-hmm. I'd be loath to make a call on a race meeting impacting future programming if you're just clearly looking at on-course attendance. Because we look here at Ascot. Ascot has how many big days attendance-wise throughout the course of an Ascot season? Would there be now 8 or 9?
Yeah,
that would be. It would be like opening day, like opening day.
Yep.
Melbourne Cup Day.
Yep.
Perth Cup Day.
Railway.
2 or 3 days of the Pinnacles.
Yep.
And then Quokka Day, and maybe some 2 or 3 days of the Pinnacles. By the 5th day of the Pinnacles, it's the rusted on ones that keep going each week. But it's 2 Cup days. Opening day are big. Quokka Day's big. Railway Day's big, so there's 5, and you maybe another 2 or 3. So there's 7 or 8 big days crowd-wise. They might have Irish Day and some of those days, but long gone is the cup of getting 15 and 20,000 and the old Super Saturday of the Railway. It just doesn't happen anymore.
Yep.
So Kalgoorlie's no different.
No, exactly right. One of the best days to go to the races this Saturday too, I reckon. Ascot opening day.
Yeah, good day. Really good day.
I reckon it's one of the top 5 in WA.
Top 5? What are the other 4?
Oh,
come on.
Railway.
Yes.
Perth Cup.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What?
No, go on.
I know you like to spend it at home in isolation.
Quokka Day.
How many is that?
That
4?
Was 3.
3. Opening day, Railway Day, Perth Cup Day, Quokka Day. 4.
3 outside the thing.
Okay.
Yeah. Give me the 4th.
In WA?
Yep.
Broome Cup.
Broome Cup?
Well, by that time of the year, you get up there and it's warm and you say,
I thought we were talking Ascot days.
Oh, Ascot days. Well, if you're talking Ascot days, I'd probably throw the Northerly in there.
It's a good race, the Northerly.
Group 1, Northerly, that's probably your championship race, isn't it?
Yeah.
1,800 metres, you get the 3-year-olds, you get the railway handicap horses have to step up. The better suited horses at weight for age.
We might try to get James Oldring on later this week and get a feel for what's in store for the Ascot season and how everything's prepping up.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, good idea. I'll leave that with you.
Okay.
All right, we'll hear from some of our sponsors. Out to the news after this.
Make Tab Radio your station of choice each weekday morning from 5:30 with the Sports Daily.
Brad Hardie not too far away here on the Sports Daily. Retrovision text line 0427789571. As I mentioned, Purser Punters got in on the chat around the Kalgoorlie Hannons Thursday to Friday. Easy change, he says.
Do you throw something else? I've had a couple of text messages from trainers in the Kalgoorlie region suggesting perhaps we throw something at the Hannons Day. Not so much the Hannons race, but the Hannons Day. So you put another feature or two on Hannons Day. Or, you know what I mean? A boosted up race along the way. So that day has a bit more meat on the bone, perhaps makes it a little bit more enticing rather than, you know, to be fair, what was the opening race on Hannons Day? A 4-horse race?
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose it just depends what the club are looking to do, isn't it? Like, do you want more people on course Hannons Day? Or
do you just
ultimately you do, but at the expense of maybe a Kel Cup, and you ride that momentum with the Golden Saddle Kel Cup. Bill Beament, that we just had a chat to 15 minutes ago, was talking about the vibe and the atmosphere on course and the big crowd there for Kel Cup. Do you sort of ride that momentum?
Yeah, or do people just, you know, come into town on the Wednesday night, Thursday, they stay anyway as it is? You know, if they don't go to the races, they might be there and going to the races, or if they don't get to the races, they're going to the pubs, they're going to, you know, book their accommodation. They might be going to play golf on the Friday or going to a function on the Friday, but they've got boots on ground in the town anyway, which is turning things over.
Yeah. Initially, when you say, do you add another feature or boost-up race, it's just the horse population this time of year. It's a real transition period,
Well,
isn't
it
it?
is, yeah.
You know, for the metropolitan trainers, you get the horses out that like Belmont, that like to get their toe into the ground, and you're bringing in your Ascot Carnival horses. So it's always, you know, numbers-wise, it's at that awkward time.
Yeah. I've just received a message here from a trainer. Hi, Digby. They always used to have an invitation race on Hannons Day, and it always got jocks from the eastern states. But today, because of the programming and the latest start to the round, a lot of the jockeys probably couldn't come, but an invitation day or a ladies' race would perhaps be good. So, yeah, maybe there's just a little bit of thinking outside the square that needs to be done if you want to do that, and just see, look, okay, and speak to people in Kalgoorlie, speak to the turf club up there and say, right, what do you want? Can we facilitate something which would help? Because I think we all acknowledge that racing in Kalgoorlie means a lot to so many. There is rich history. Bill mentioned it. You know, when you're talking David Reeds and Keith Biggs and you know, Bill Beament's, you know, as he said, he went to uni there. Clearly he's invested in the region, as are so many. You know, S.J. Miller, he knows Kalgoorlie better than most. You know, that meant so much to him. It meant so much to David. This is a race round which can't be lost, and I'd be opposing anything to dilute it. I'm not a Kalgoorlie boy, but I understand you speak to people from Kalgoorlie, it means so much to them, and we can't lose that.
No, exactly right. And the KBRC, to their credit, they've identified that maybe the Kalgoorlie Cup Day was losing a little bit of its lustre, and they did something about it. They added $1 million race, which, as you mentioned, I think was a massive success, and we've been talking about it for 2.5, 3 months, slot holders, and we know what that sort of race generates publicity-wise.
One thing we do know with Kalgoorlie people and, you know, Kalgoorlie businessmen and women, they have some clout, they've got some money, and they can get things done. And that's what we saw with the Golden Saddle. So good luck and well done to everyone involved.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Gavin's texting on the Retrovision text line. Couldn't work out the money for Snowdome. Twain's was a horror watch coming around the turn.
Your thoughts?
Agree with that. We spoke about Snowdome, and Twain's Angel just unfortunately lost a spot about the 400 metres. There was a little bit of traffic there, got spat out the back a little bit, but I think if you're a connection of Twain's Angel, you're probably a little bit disappointed you didn't finish closer, but going forward for the rest of the campaign, you'd be pretty happy.
I would have thought so. Yep, absolutely, I would have thought so. So there's a bit to like about her. And what we saw last campaign with her, she got better as she was exposed to more racing. She had a really extensive prep, yet she she produced a career PB in her farewell run last campaign. So I like the fact that she's got to the races. In that first trial, it was only a legs stretching exercise. The second trial was better. I wasn't convinced, but then she's gone there and run well. So Sean and Jake have an excellent handle on her, and you'd like to think now she is going to improve as her preparation advances.
All right, Gary from Hocking. Hello, I went to Kalgoorlie for the round. The locals were saying there is a lot more FIFO now than workers that live in Cal. Still a great weekend. Track looked in terrific condition.
Yeah, well, there's a heap of FIFOs there, naturally, with that resources sector there. But look, by report, speaking to a lot of people, and you heard it from Bill as well, the town was busy, and so it should be. It was hard to get accommodation, and that's a good thing because it means people are interested in what you're offering. So, again, been an excellent season. And a shout out also, we haven't mentioned it, to Peter Fernie and Andrew Ingalls and Lucy.
Of course.
They've had a wonderful association for a little while now, that trio, and certainly Andrew and Peter have been joined at the hip for many a year. But for them to, run second in a Hannans, but then win a Kalgoorlie Cup, now things didn't go right for Starry Heights, and condolences to all concerned there. But that winner of the Kalgoorlie Cup, 60.5, no mean feat at all.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to be playing a part in some of the features come Ascot Pinnacle's time, of course, as well. And then I'm not sure it's this time, but maybe in 12 months' time, I wouldn't be surprised if Immortal Bliss is doing the same. The winner of the other feature on the day, the Ron Sayers,
good horse
on top of the ground here in WA, showed that explosive turn of foot over those sprinting trips. So I think he's also one that we can follow later on into his career.
On the Sports Daily, it's time to introduce the 1985 Brownlow medalist from the Footscray Football Club at Brad Hardie. This segment is proudly presented by Retrovision, Loans 123 and Ross's Auctioneers and Valuers. Introducing the boy from Hilton, the AFL guru, Brad Hardie.
Good morning to you, Bradley.
Morning, Diggers. Good morning, TC. Coming to you by phone this week. Just spending a few days up on the Murray, which is terrific. And, Diggers, I think we've got a new Sydney Swans. I'm sure you would have talked about it earlier in the program. But the Melbourne Storm, I don't think they can do anything else now, TC. Making a grand final won't cut it. I think they have to win one now, Diggers. They're a little bit kin to the Sydney Swans, aren't they? To try and get some, last year, well, pretty much outplayed by the Panthers, but last night coughed up something they probably shouldn't have. And, it's going to be a long season for them next year to get back to try and redeem themselves.
At least they were competitive, Diggs.
Yeah.
Swans just show up and
show up and get spanked. But no, wonderful game. The NRL Grand Final always is. There's so much interest in it, and it's become a bit like a Super Bowl. The NRL Grand Final in terms of they seem to be close. The grand finals, like the Super Bowls, like they seem to be able to go down to the wire, and the NRL grand finals, unlike what we've seen with some of the AFL grand finals of late, they keep you on the edge of your seat for a fair portion of that 80 minutes.
Well, it was a stark contrast, wasn't it? Because I think it was the highest scoring first half, Diggers, in an NRL grand final, TC, and in the second half, well, the Storm couldn't score. They played very conservatively, and just didn't they make some fumbles and bumbles along the way, and that's what can happen in big games. And if you don't get it right, and they'd be disappointed with a couple of their superstars who didn't quite turn up on the day, but that happens. But when your support cast is equally as flat, it does not happen. But geez, that Reece Walsh, we spoke about Coates, who was a bit disappointing last night. We thought he could be a cross-coder, but maybe Reece Walsh could be a cross-coder. He might be one who could trade in for the Aussie rules footy boots and do pretty well at it, I would have thought.
Well, he was outstanding and a fitting Clive Churchill medalist. Now, Brad, did you fall off your chair when Christian Petrarca nominated Gold Coast?
I did a little bit because, as I say, we had the inside running on that. It wasn't really on their radar 3 weeks ago. They had other plans. Now I can confide that they were trying to do a deal with the Sydney Swans for Rowbottom, his sister plays in the AFLW up there, TC, and they were hopeful that he would go to the Gold Coast and join her there in exchange for a first rounder, because they've got plenty. And then that would go to Carlton for Charlie Curnow as part of a deal to get Charlie to Sydney. So they really had Rowbottom on the list. Your boy Simkin from North Melbourne was also a strong consideration, Diggers. And then it was a bit of gap, and then it was Petrarca. But then Petrarca went to Adelaide last week. His wife didn't like the fanfare and which is understandable when, you're a player of his calibre going into Adelaide or anywhere for that matter, you're going to cause a ruckus. She didn't quite like that. They do have apparently a holiday home up on Noosa. Good luck to them. And she likes the lifestyle. He's more about the footy, So it's not a backward step for Christian to be going to the Gold Coast to, complement the likes of Rowell and Anderson and Miller. I mean, he could probably be that. He's not Dusty Martin, but he could be that sort of Dusty Martin role, Diggers, if you know what I mean. He could play centre forward and roll and hopefully get back to goal kicking form, which he's sort of lost his way a little bit over the last 12 months. Yeah, so I'm not surprised in the end. And obviously he and Hardie obviously hit it off like a house on fire, and they've said, "Yep, let's go it and give it a throw at the stumps." Now they've got to try and get it done.
All right, what would get it done for Christian Petrarca?
Oh, it'd certainly have to be a first rounder. I think the Sam Flanders deal. I was saying to the boys yesterday that Sam Flanders was actually in a meeting with the Gold Coast Suns late last week, TC, and they were talking about him, where he wanted to go and what was best for Gold Coast, etc. And obviously Melbourne had come into the frame because of Petrarca, and the phone rang. He had to excuse himself from the meeting, and he came back. He said, "I'm going to St Kilda. I want to go to St Kilda." So they could probably still get it done. I think St Kilda, probably could receive, an early pick, and it might be a bit convoluted, but I think for Petrarca to get done, they're going to have a first rounder go to Melbourne and probably a player somewhere along the line. I would have thought it won't be Humphreys. I mean, forget that. That they will flat out refuse to let him go, even though his manager said nothing to see here, nothing doing, and then all of a sudden these clandestine meetings. There's been meeting with Hawthorn earlier in the year. He's walked around the tan with Melbourne, amongst others, So, again, the line's the second language of the AFL, as we know, Diggers, and they've just got to try and hunt one out, TC. That's the way they've got to do it.
Yeah, he's a good one, Humphrey. You'd be trying to keep him as long as you possibly can. He's a powerful young man, Bailey Humphreys, and has enormous upside. The one that surprised me with Gold Coast, Brad, was Ben Ainsworth, who has been there a few years now. He's an established player, and I think he's open to a move.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Diggers. They've got a few of those. I mean, Davies came into his own this year a little bit. Fiorini found a bit more of the ball, but he wants to he's maybe exploring options as well. We know Rosas has declared he wants to go, not that he was in the team, but yeah, that's what happens. I mean, it doesn't matter how well your team's going and then played their first finals, as we know, TC for 15 years. There's always a matter of, can I get better elsewhere? Can I get more opportunities elsewhere? And I suppose with the midfield depth and the like that they're getting now, he's probably felt as though, well, look, I'm not going to get in there. But whether he gets if he chooses somewhere where he thinks he can get in, well, that's good. But you still got to make it, don't you? You still got to cut in, and you won't be getting the pie ride wherever you go. So I was a bit taken aback with that one myself, because I think he's a pretty good player.
Seems the way forward, doesn't it? Players are just going to come out and say, "I'm open to a move," and then you gauge who comes calling. Well, your manager's got to take a couple of calls, and then you make a decision, and you have to walk back to your old club, or you move on.
Well, that's the case with Butters, Zach Butters. I mean, he wants out, but he has to get aggressive now. He hasn't been aggressive to this point. He's just sort of been, they might let me go. They probably won't let me go. He's got to force the issue now, as Zach Merritt did. I mean, it's been a bit ugly and a bit messy for Zach Merritt, but at least he's on his way, in terms of, he's on the path to trying to get to Hawthorn. Well, Zach Butters, if he wants to go, he has to be vehement, and he has to say, you have to let me go home. I want to go home. So that's the only way it's going to even get thought about being done, because if he's just going to be passive and say, oh, well, I could stay, I could go, I could stay, I could go, that's not going to cut it. So I'll be watching that space over the next few weeks, that's for sure.
Yeah, very much so. So what do you expect to happen in the next 24 to 48 now that we are in the space of trading?
Yes.
I think some of the more obvious ones, my checks and that will, the conning, that type of thing will get negotiated, get through, and they're talking about an inordinate amount of players moving, aren't they, Diggers? I mean, I read somewhere the other day, don't quote me, I think it was 70 or 80 that could be moving, but, not a lot of them are high-density ones. We know there's a few out there, but there's going to be, until one of the big ones falls, we're probably just going to be chit-chatting about, the little side shows, along the way. But they got to get aggressive. Sydney on Curnow if they want him. I know he's in an ideal world he'd love to go to Geelong, but that's not going to happen. I can't see that one being materialised. So yeah, and then other players, as I say, like Butters and co, need to be strong. And if you want to go, sometimes you've got to be confrontationalist, and there's a lot of people out there who don't like confrontation. So it's not a good place to be if you're trying to get yourself out of your club and go on somewhere else early. You've got to be just that. You've got to be in their face.
Who would lead the charge for Zach Butters if Hawthorn's going after Zach Merritt?
Be your boys, wouldn't it, Brad?
Yeah, it's our boys. I think we're in front by a mile, but it's just a matter of, as I say, he's got to get aggressive and start getting the ball moving. He comes from a town called Darley, which is just out at Backasmarsh, near Backasmarsh in the western suburbs of TC, and grew up a Bulldog supporter. His mother's a mad Bulldog supporter, etc., etc. He would love to live out that way. So it just makes sense, that would be the way he'd want to go. They could fit him in. Obviously, they tried and missed with Wilkie, but made St Kilda pay, and they couldn't get both anyway. So I think they'll go one or the other, and now the other is now the option.
Okay, does Charlie Curnow stay, or does he end up somewhere?
I think there's only a possibility of two. I think it's stay at Carlton or get to Sydney, and again it have to be an aggressive move by Sydney to try, because as I said, they were hoping Rowbottom. Now they're talking Haywood. So it's they've seen a few more. Georgie Hewitt went down there. There's been a few like that, but they'll need more than that. As I said, they'll need a first rounder and a Haywood, or maybe a first rounder and a future, and a Haywood type thing. I think to even get to the negotiating table, to be brutally honest, TC. But it'd be a good move for Sydney. I think that'd be fair to say, because hopefully young McDonald's back next year from injury. Amati's underwhelmed. The big McLean sort of doesn't quite cut it. So, that would certainly straighten them up a little bit, wouldn't it, if they could get Charlie Curnow up the front and get McDonald back. They could have a 2 or 3 prong attack that would be well worth watching, and certainly worried about if you're an opposition coach.
Well, he is pricked up, and I must admit, when I read the story, Will Haywood, who we know was being courted by Carlton a couple of years ago before he recommitted to Sydney, over the past 72 hours said, look, if I'm part of that trade that gets Charlie Curnow to Sydney, that I'm okay with that. I don't want to be somewhere where I'm not wanted. I haven't heard anything officially from the club or my management, but I'd be open to that. So that might unlock something for Sydney to acquire Charlie Curnow.
Yeah, you're right, because that's absolutely spot on, and that's the attitude you've got to have in modern day footy. If you're just going to be rusted on, and so I keep hearing Jack Steele. No wonder, I know he wants to stay because of the money he's on. Jack Steele saying, no, I don't want to lose in Kilda, but some people are going to have to come a calling, because they've obviously got him to step down from the captaincy, because that's going to Wilkie, and he's on big money. So how do you get him out of there? Where do you get him to? What's the right club for him? Unfortunately, he's in a range of slow-moving midfielders, and clubs don't want that. They want breakaway midfielders. Clayton Oliver's on the market. It's a bit of flush with some of these slow-moving midfielders who don't hurt you. So, and Jack Steele 3 years ago absolutely was flying, but he's not flying anymore. So, yeah, you've got to be open to these sort of things like Haywood is. And then look, he wouldn't be on anywhere near the same money as Steele, but I've got it a bit, I guess. I don't know what you think, but TC, he's been a bit disappointing for me, Haywood. He breaks out every now and then, kicks 3 or 4, and you think, yep, he's here. and then you don't see him for another month, 5 weeks. You think, oh God, you know, I've missed this, I've underestimated or overestimated him or whatever. So that's the thing. So as I say, if he's prepared to move and Carlton are prepared to take him, well, I'd be doing it.
Playing in the forward line at Carlton, he won't get too many chest marks, Diggers.
No, I'm just looking here. He's played 184 games, Will Hayward, and he's kicked 229 goals. Like, his return in the last, what are we looking at here? 2021, he's kicked 28, 34, 25, 41 and 29. So, look, he's durable, he's consistent. He's, what is he now? He's October, so he's a 26, 27-year-old. He's got a few years left in him.
Yes,
I don't know. He's solid. He's a solid player. Exactly right. He's a solid player. I'm not sure.
Good stats there, Diggers. But if you go into it forensically, you know, as I say, you'll see out of the 28 this year, you know, he might have kicked 4 twice or something.
Yeah.
So what's going on the rest of the time? You know what I mean? If you kick, you know, a dozen or 13 TC in 3 or 4 games, and then what are you doing for the other 20? You know, like clearly not enough. But you're right. He's solid. And look, they need someone down there at Carlton who can finish. And you know, they've tried a few, and Jesse Motlop looks like he's going to break out up the field next year. So they really haven't had that solid goal kicker down there. And if he could complement, you know, Big Harry Mackay and get a few contested marks, etc., because he can do that. He can play at ground level and in the air. So yeah, he might be worth 30 or 40 to him.
Anything else to touch on before we let you go, Brad?
No. I think, as I said, we'll just sit back with the popcorn now and watch everything unfold. I think TC, because as soon as one of the bigger ones drops, I think we'll start to get a bit of movement at the station. We're going to have a lot of speculation about what's going on and who may be moving where over the next few days, and we'll try and keep you abreast of it as best as we possibly can, boys.
All right.
And that's thanks to our great mate Morts at Group 1 Morts from Retrovision, 17 stores. Got to be one near you. The Nude Nut, 1-800-100-100. We'll keep reinforcing that he does things the banks can't. And don't forget Frankie Lee at Ross's Auctions, boys. So enjoy your day. Hit them straight and back a winner.
All right. Thank you very much, Brad. We'll catch up tomorrow.
Cheers, boys.
Brad Hardie is proudly presented by Retrovision, Loans 123, and Ross's Auctioneers and Valuers. Retrovision, lowest price guaranteed. RAC members save 5%. Loans 123 for all your loan needs. Call Steve Sell on 1-800-100-100. Ross's Auctioneers and Valuers, the leading auctioneering firm in WA.
Nighttime Radio, your station of choice. Each weekday morning from 5:30 with the Sports Daily.
Welcome back to the Sports Daily. 0427 789 571 is the number for the Retrovision text line. You can have your say on anything we're discussing. If you went to Kalgoorlie, let us know what your experience was like over the weekend.
Collingwood list manager Justin Lepich confirms the Magpies are exploring a move for Clayton Oliver. So Collingwood is in the mix to lure Clayton Oliver to the football club. Your thoughts as a Collingwood supporter and member, Taylor?
My membership's just turned purple.
Oh, you're giving up. That's it. You've done a Tim. You've just abandoned your side.
Gee whiz, I'll tell you what, sides will be going into matches against Collingwood next year thinking, how are we going to combat the speed of that midfield?
Wowie. The word treacle springs to mind.
I don't even know what that means.
Slow as treacle. There you go, T. You've never heard that saying?
No, I haven't. Who's treacle? What's he do?
Don't worry about it. Go on. What have you got from the text line?
Jeez. Who do you reckon? I'll give you 2 guesses on the text line after Collingwood are interested in Oliver. Who's had a go?
Mark from Vic Park. Yeah. Good morning, Mark. Good on you, Mark. You give him some feedback, son.
Oh,
wowee. Wowee.
I was hoping, why wouldn't you go after Zach Butters? I don't know how that works and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. The cackle about Zach Butters, and unlikely, he is contracted. And at the end,
if there's 3 players he doesn't want to leave, he's at the top of the list.
Yeah, and he's won 3 BNFs in a row. He was successful again earlier Sorry, it was last month, wasn't it? I was going to say early this month. We're now in October, so they had their BNF last month, Port, and he won a third best and fairest. He is contracted until the end of 2026, if I'm not mistaken, Zach Butters, and then he's a restricted free agent. So, even if he says, I want to go to the Western Bulldogs on a 7-year deal worth $12 million,
Port can match it.
Port can match it. So that's a key plank there going forward.
Yep. All right, Frank. It's too bad we can't transfer coaches like players do, but JL have the Dockers still have him next year as they made finals.
Say that again? Sorry, I misheard that, did I?
No, you didn't. Frank might need to clarify that, but okay. Justin Longmuir have the Dockers, or the Dockers still have him next year as they made finals. So I think Frank, the gist of that is he'd like JL to go, but he kept his job because they've made finals.
Yes, yeah, and next year, like this year, is a huge year for Justin and that football club. I think we all acknowledge that, do we not?
Yes. Oh, well,
there's no two ways about it.
It's getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it does, and that's okay. That's the state. It's the AFL environment. You produce or you perish. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. Simple.
Yeah, had their best and fairest.
Yeah, Caleb Sarong, third successive Doig medal. So, and understandably so, had a wonderful season. Wonderful season. Polled well in the Brownlow, and he was their best player all year.
Yeah.
And I thought Jackson was right there as well. Brayshaw, he does everything.
I saw the Prancing Pony up on stage too.
Oh, well, so he should be. It should be named the Prancing Pony Medal going forward.
He should open the night, shouldn't he, with a celebration.
Just welcome. It's like you get welcome to the Octagon. Welcome to the Doig Medal. The Prancing Pony. Oh, gee whiz. Oh, I'm looking forward to watching him again already. 2026 can't come quick enough. I love him. I reckon he's a burster. He leads up at the footy. I like big key forwards who lead up at the footy, and he does that.
And he converted. And that wasn't the case earlier in the year, but he was able to straighten up late, didn't he?
There was that game earlier in the year when he sort of tried to centre the ball, and he fluffed a couple of balls. Was it against Sydney?
Yeah, round two,
yeah, he didn't have a best start to the season, missed some games through suspension, but all in all, he's a very important player to the way that Fremantle structure up.
All right. Paul from Palmyra was in touch a little bit earlier on this morning, but he has his say on Kalgoorlie.
Yep.
Something very important about Cal, Bill Beament touched on, and the gold price is booming. With that in mind, it is borderline impossible to get any accommodation out there on a regular day. Add that to school holiday travel. I'm not sure you would get any more people to the races regardless of what you do, as it's so hard for outsiders to travel.
Yeah, well, I don't know this intricately, TC, but speaking to some people and reading a little bit is the I suppose the proliferation of FIFO workers in Kalgoorlie soaks up a lot of the accommodation, and we know that there's a heap there, as there are in a lot of the mining regions throughout Western Australia, and therefore it's difficult. And is that impacting the town in terms of business? Because basically you fly in, you work, you're based there, you're domiciled there, and then you can come back out. But one thing is that, as Bill said, the town's going along beautifully. Clearly with gold and the like. So some towns just, and to be fair, it's not just Kalgoorlie. So look at Broome. You get to Broome in August, and if you haven't booked and you try to organise something, good luck.
Yeah.
The Southwest is the same. Like whether it's the Bunbury races or not, but if you haven't booked and you're heading south, over popular periods, you're not getting in. And unfortunately, it seems like rooms were hard to find there in Kalgoorlie over the last week or so.
Yeah, V-Man's text in as well on the Retrovision text line. He's taking the positives from the West Coast Eagles. The women are flying. And he's also said, I got the feeling that he gets the feeling that Hannans, the premier sprint race in Kalgoorlie, is going to take a back seat now to the Golden Saddle. And eventually the Hannans is going to fall away. Thoughts?
Hope not. I hope not. What's a bigger race now in WA? The Winterbottom or the Quokka?
Bigger race in WA. What are you measuring that on? Quality?
Profile?
Probably the
quality.
Quokka. Probably the Quokka.
What's a bigger race, the Everest or the TJ?
Everest. I think Everest is probably the biggest race in Australia.
rightly, wrongly, traditionalists might not like it, but these slot races bring something different to the table.
And it's a weight for age 1,200 metres. It's a different type of horse. I know 1,200 to 1,400, they're the same horses distance-wise, but the Hannons is a handicap.
Yes.
So they are different. I'm not too... How many horses that were in the Golden Saddle, like did the Golden Saddle take away from the Hannons? I don't think there would have been too many.
No. Without thinking. I'm just trying to think now, like a young...
Maybe a Man Crush?
Maybe, yeah. Well, he raced in the Hannons 12 months ago. Magnificent Andy won a Hannons, but now he couldn't go to a Hannons because he's weighted out. So, look, if the sum of all parts would suggest that Kalgoorlie, I would think, is better off having more better races, if that makes sense. So a superior product is one that benefits from an addition rather than a subtraction. So if you've got a Hannons, historically, it was the Hannons and it was the Kalgoorlie Cup. Now, we had the Triple Crown, we had the Coolgardie and the Boulder, and we had that bonus that was attached to it all those years ago. We talk about Signpost in the early 1990s. Mm-hmm. But from where we were 5 years ago, when it was the Hannons and the Cup, and that was it, now we've got the Hannons, we've got the Cup, we've got the Ron Sayers, which is a nod to a great man.
Yep.
And now we've also got a Golden Saddle. So we've gone from 2 features to 4. Surely that's better for consumers and the industry. Would you concur?
Has to be, yeah.
I would think so. Now, if the Hannons has to play second fiddle to the Saddle, well, that's okay, I would have thought. You know, people are still going to target the Hannons with good horses.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is a different animal. Like it's, as you said, that's a handicap at 1,400 as opposed to a 1,200 metre weight for age race.
Yeah.
And one's worth 150, the other one's worth $1 million now. I know it's a slot race, so you have to divvy up what you earn. You know, the 400,000 for the winning connections on Saturday. So 40 goes to SJ, 20 goes to Bradley. So you've got, what's that, 340 left to split between the Beament Racing Syndicate and David Reed. Now, what the deal was, that's not any of your business or mine. That's between the relevant parties. But, I would have thought if you're adding to a carnival or a round like they have done with the Golden Saddle and in recent times the Ron Sayers, I think that's a good thing.
We'll get to a break shortly and then Matt Young on the other side of the break. But Donnie's also weighed in on this about Kalgoorlie. How can you have 3 main feature sprints at Kalgoorlie, the Hannons, the Ron Sayers, and then the Golden Saddle? I don't think any of those races sort of overlap.
I don't think they did.
Is a 66 plus, so there's clearly a different type of horse.
But it's a 66 plus 1,100 metre event worth $100,000.
Yeah, great for the day.
I am Immortal Bliss, a son of I am Immortal.
Would have been hard to beat as well, though.
He's not running in a Golden Saddle at this stage of his career. He might in 12 months, who knows?
Yep.
And he's not running in a 1,400 metre Hannons. So I don't, as silly as it sounds, there's one's 11, one's 12, one's 14. They're all different. You've got a weight for age 6 furlong event. You've got a handicap 1,400 metre event, and you've got a ratings race, which just so happens to get a little bit of cash injection.
I'm a big advocate for the Super Saturdays. I don't know what you do with the midweek meeting. If you move it to Thursday, if you move it to Friday, or, you keep it on Thursday, and if you can create another feature, I'm not too sure horse population-wise if that's going to work, but I'm a massive fan of moving the Hannons.
If you have these Fridays and Saturdays like we see in Scone, they have a feature on the Friday or 2, and then they have a feature on the Saturday, do they not, as well?
Yeah.
So if you are doing a Friday Kalgoorlie race into a Saturday Kalgoorlie race, can you
create a mares race?
Or a mares race,
sure.
Yeah. Or
I'd have to sit down and look at the scheduling and.
Yeah, don't know. Look, smarter minds than you and mine will go to work, and hopefully we'll come up with a solution. And next year we might see a tweak to that carnival.
There's a lot of them around, Diggers.
Oh yeah, exactly right. Look at the kindergarten kids. They got us covered.
Year 1. 0427 789 571. We'll take a very quick break. We'll be back with Matt Young on the other side.
Nighttime Radio, your station of choice. Each weekday morning from 5:30 with the Sports Daily.
All right, welcome back to the Sports Daily. We're about to take a look at harness racing. 9 races on the program from Pinjarra.
This WA Harness Racing Preview is brought to you by Retrovision. TVs, computers, electrical appliances and homewares. Retrovision is your retailer of choice. Retrovision, 60 years strong in WA with 18 stores statewide. RAC members receive an additional 5% every day at Retrovision.
How do you do, Matt?
Very good morning to you, TC. Hello, Dig.
Hello, Matt. Good to have a chat to you on this Monday morning from Courtland to Collie to Pinjarra today.
Yeah, I get around.
You do, you do indeed. The first of 9, you little gigolo, is over the 26.31 at 1:53. It is the King of Swing, greatest son of rock and roll Hanover discretionary, and we are looking at a very, very open race here.
Yeah, very open race. Aldebaran Boyd was a beaten favourite last start, and that was when leading and just dashed the middle stages. Looked like just got a little bit keen in the middle stages and then was sort of the undoing towards the finish, and we saw him get swamped. So he's got a handicap advantage over a couple of the horses who look to be his main dangers. 2,600 metres doesn't look to be too concerning. I think Chris Folk will just step in safely, work forward around the outside, likely to get the top pretty comfortably here. And from there, it's going to be very hard to beat. So 4 on top from Aldebaran Boyd, 6 Majestic Gaga. In saying all those things, I think this also suits Majestic Gaga a little bit better. She's 10 metres closer this time to Aldebaran Boyd. She normally steps okay. She has been stepping reasonably quick as of late. But last start, she just over-raced and was caught in the breeze, in a mobile. Just a few things went against her. I think the stand with a nice, safe getaway is going to suit her better. So I think she'll run well. In for third, number 1, Saloon, is just the most consistent horse going around, and 8, Love of Flair, has to overcome the 30 metres, but this horse has also got the ability to be able to close that gap, and she is one that just flies under the radar. She beats them so many times, but they keep letting her get into the race, so expecting her to be getting home well again on her own track. 4-6-1-8.
In race number 1, race number 2, King of Swing, 3-time Australian Horse of the Year pace at 21.85 the journey. Scratch number 5, favourite at 160. Number 1, American Machine.
Yeah, hard to beat American Machine. Definitely wasn't disgraced in the Golden Slipper. Gets a good draw and looks very hard to beat and seems to be doing everything A-OK. So really good opportunity for American Machine here to be able to win this race. 4 in Rare Air. Comes in off a fresh up. This horse has got plenty of ability, expecting a pretty strong performance from In Rare Air. In for third, I'm throwing in the 8 Shugat, who I think is racing really well. Gets a good opportunity here, but bumps into a couple of really nice ones again. I don't think he'll be too far off them. And in for the top 4, I'm going to throw in number 3, Waves of Fortune, who I'm expecting to get across into a pretty soft position and can run into the top 4 here. 1 on top to beat 4, 8 and 3.
Matt, race 3 is the King of Swing, 3-time Miracle Mile winner, trot over the 21.85 at 2 minutes after 3 o'clock. The market says Aristotle is the one to beat. Do you agree?
Yeah, the form reads up good for a race of this nature, and Michael Young was on the Retrovision Gloucester Park preview on Friday, and he suggested that the horse got him well into this race, so they were confident would run pretty well. So 8 on top, Aristotle. For me to beat the 5, Alice Starren for second, who's got good gate speed, could get forward and potentially lead. From there, should stick on really well. 3 in for third, Labrador, who was a pretty decent effort last time out, did the work and stuck on really well. Likely to head forward again and won the beat. I think the beat can run top 4. It's a big price, but I liked the run last start after it did things wrong, caught the field and still hit the line well. Trolled up pretty decent in moderate time the other day, but has got the nice draw and has definitely shown glimpses of ability, but just doesn't always put it together on race day. So can run top 4 if he does everything right. 8 on top to beat 5, 3 and 1.
All right, the beat there, number 1 in race 3, $71 and $4 a place. Race number 4, a lightning lap, no scratched at this stage. 3.20 the favourite, They Call Me Stooge.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting sort of race. Got a good warhole, will be trying to lead. They Call Me Stooge, likely to duck in behind. Hot Footed will go forward. Stapleton likely to go forward. So there could be a little bit happening in the early stages here. Look, I just thought it mapped perfectly for Stapleton. He's been pretty good in his last few runs, and I think he can get into this race really well. Likely to be very close to the speed, and from there I think he's going to be hard to beat. So 6 on top, Stapleton, marked him pretty high up for the day. 4, They Call Me Stooge in for second. he's going to get the run in the race, but I will say the one thing about him is his sprint normally is better when he's just 1 or 2 off the speed. He's going to be pretty close to the speed today, so we'll just see how well he sprints when he gets down to the Tab sprint lane. In for third, I'm throwing in 3, got a good Warhol, who's ready to run a big race. I think if he can lead, he'll definitely go a long part of this 1,100 metres, and 5 in for fourth, hot foot at racing well. But the draw could work out to be a little bit tricky. 6-4-3-5.
Race 5 is over the 21.85 at 2 minutes to 4 o'clock. Advantage is the $1.95 favourite with Tab Touch, Matt.
Yeah, and this race, look, I'm with Advantage on top. Wasn't disgraced last run. Barrier draw is probably a good draw for him. He's not someone that can be really used. He just needs things to unfold, and then he can use his speed late. 1,000-metre track's going to suit a horse like him a lot better. I think he's going to be very hard to beat. So I've got the 6 on top. 4 in for second, Wall Street Girl. Liked the run last start. They didn't go overly quick overall, but they sprinted home quickly, and I thought she stuck on really well. It was a good sign for her. She's another one that can't really be used too much in the early stages, so she'll just lob where she lobs and get home well. 5, better move along. I don't think this horse is at his absolute best. He was at the start. He's sort of been mixing form since. He's not far away, but yeah, I think at his best he's right in this race, but just we'll get more of an indication today on where he is. And 7, Flying Disco really runs a bad race, but it's got the tricky draw to work with. 6-4-5-7.
That's in race number 5. Again, race number 6 brought to you by King of Swing. It's over the 16.84. No scratched according to Tab Touch at this stage. Pretty wide open race, Matt, but Miss Stefani is the favourite at the moment at $2.90.
Yeah, Miss Stefani being favourite's interesting to me because I don't think there's a lead there. So it all depends where she's going to lob in the run. She can do some work, but I just thought they were the wrong way around in the market. So I've got the 1 on top, Icy Cold, who had issues last start and has got the better draw. But after losing all that ground at the start in her last run, I thought she hit the line really well, and it was a real good indication. She was KO'd first up, so she's had excuses. She gets the draw over the mile. She's a short course specialist. I thought Icy Cold could lead and win this race. So 1 on top, 8 Mania in for second, perfectly drawn. Mania's a good earning type from that position. 7 in for third, Ideal Interest has got the ability to do some work in the race and still stick on, so he can overcome the draw. And in for fourth and throwing in the turn is Stefani. Just think she's short enough in the market. I think she's going okay, but definitely short enough, and I was happy to be with the 1 on top from 8, 7 and 2.
King of Swing, 3-time Grand Circuit champ pace is race 7 over the 16.84, Matt, at 6 minutes to 5 o'clock. Luke Attack, the 12 here for Junior, is the $3.50 favourite.
Yeah, it's a wide open race. I'm going to throw one left field here, one that I've been following for a little while. Jingling Jules, I thought he could nearly lead, and over the mile he's run a pretty good race. So happy to be with the 3 on top, Jingling Jules, to beat the 11. I'm Eugene, who should be getting home well in this race. Last run was good, did plenty of work, and he is suited to the short course races. 12 Luke Attack can get into the race by doing some work, but he just has to monitor how much he does do, and 10 in for fourth Error. Thought it was a pretty good run last start. I always prefer this horse in shorter distances, and that was a good indication that he's not far away after finishing in the money over the 2100. 3, 11, 12, 10.
Race number 8 on the program. Scratch number 1. It's over the 21.85. The favourite, Her Presence, is at $1.40.
Yeah, should roll to the top and then be very hard to beat Her Presence. I think this race has got her name written all over it. So 3 on top here. To beat the 2, Better Than Secret, I think will run a really good race. Comes into barrier 1 with the scratching of 1 and should get the run of the race here and stick on well. 8 in for third, Grievous, should be punching the rail and finishing the race off nicely. And 9 Beat the Bank, likewise getting home well. Could be a Pegs affair, this one, 3, 2, 8, 9.
OK, and we finish with a maiden over the 21.85, Matt. Apologies, at 5.47.
Yeah, I like the 1, 3 Flames. I thought it hit the line really well last start, so it was one that I put in the black book and thought would go well. Happy with the draw. I'm happy with how the race could pan out here for 3 Flames. So with the 1 each way, 11 Bougie Boys have also always had a bit of time for. He's now with Dylan Edgerton Green, comes in no trial, expecting a pretty strong performance. 12 The Rizzler was a really good effort last start, but it's a tough draw to overcome, so you wouldn't want to be diving in too short, but he's definitely getting close to a win, and today could be the day. And 3 Elvira Jane in for fourth, won't be too far away. 1, 11, 12 and 3.
Who's the best?
Race 6, number 1, Icy Cold for me.
Race 6, number 1, Icy Cold. All right, hopefully it wins and then you can have one. You probably don't need any more after the weekend, actually. Now I say that.
It's coming out your gills.
Special guest on Off and Pacing?
Emily Savelka will be joining us.
Emily Savelka. All right, beautiful. We're about 5 minutes away from starting that show, so I'll let you go to the toilet and come back.
Cheers, guys.
There's Matt Young. Race 6, number 1 was 3:20 and still is with Tab Touch.
All right, excellent.
Shayne's tips?
Shayne's tips. I have them written down here, T.
I've got them in front of me.
No, hold on. Race 3, number 8, Starlight Twix. Race 6, number 7, Charis Royal. And race 10, his best, number 1, Wise Cracker.
All right, beautiful. That's the Sports Daily done and dusted for another day. We can keep an eye out. Where's it going to be? Tab Touch blog, your 10 horses to follow. Is that going up today?
Either today or tomorrow morning, but there's going to be a few honorary mentions, I think.
Oh, you're going to do the old cop-out, are you?
Yeah, I am. Yes, I am. It's my blog. That's the rules. I'm nominating 10 horses to look at, but
blog off.
Gee whiz, it's hard to settle on just 10 because we've got a lot of high-end horses here.
Well, that's good. It's a good problem to have.
Absolutely, it is. Very exciting.
And horses to watch. There's a couple on the up there, I'd hope.
Yes, there will be. Thank you.
Little left field ones?
I'll just try to cover off on some of the features, like identify horses who are going to be playing a part in the features. That's what I'm looking at.
All right, we'll discuss that tomorrow. We'll pick it apart. Chat to you then.
Thank you.